And we're back.
And we're back.
And we're back for another one. Today, we have a special episode.
Oh, special.
So special.
Today's a special episode. It's our second one.
It's the second anniversary of our
It's the second
podcast.
anniversary
It's really
of
special.
our first podcast. It's very
Speaking of
nice.
anniversaries, this episode is going to be about
brilliant.
relationships.
Yeah. Ones
That was a pretty good
failed.
That was a pretty good
Yeah.
transition right there, right?
That was brilliant.
What did you say? Ones that failed? All of them have
All
failed.
of them.
I'm like 0 for 10 right now.
Oh for...
No, I haven't been in that many relationships.
Damn, 0 for
I actually
10.
haven't been in any relationships. I'm an incel. Right?
No.
No?
No.
Why not?
Cuz. We're not.
I mean,
You're
we could
not.
be.
Could be.
I think, bro, the likelihood of you becoming an incel is not you specifically,
I was like,
But-
are we doing this right now?
but people becoming an incel. It's getting higher and higher
I think so.
because it's just, again, the basic lack of like human connection. Oh fuck!
Oh, 'cause
like
of
like
the
they're
COVID
just
and everything.
well, oh yeah. I mean that's definitely making it worse. But like,
think
I
that's
think-
like increasing the numbers.
well, there's not really girl incels, right?
I'm sure there are.
Maybe I haven't heard of any or seen any on the news.
I haven't heard of any. No.
The ones that are doing crazy shit like bombing colleges and shit are guys for sure.
Is that a thing? Like,
Yeah, there was
incels
one-
bombing colleges.
There was one incel who literally bombed a college and killed multiple people.
Holy shit.
Yeah. And he was like releasing videos saying like I fucking hate women, blah blah blah, you know, like he was intense,
man.
bro. But
Oh,
yeah,
man.
it's fucked up, but just kidding. We're not incels. We don't support incels, not on this podcast, not
No.
ever. But they are interesting to think about. But more importantly, relationships.
Yeah, back to what?
Right. Well, it kind of relates cuz like
Yeah.
incels want a relationship, right?
Right.
That's what they want more than anything. It's their whole identity, right? It's like, I need a relationship, and if I don't have it, I am not whole. I am not a
Right.
human, right? So
Okay.
I hate women because they can't give me that. Sometimes it's just about sex, though. be
Yeah,
honest.
I think it could just be more about that.
For some, I'm sure, yeah.
because
definitely
they've
is.
been celibate for so long involuntarily.
Involuntarily.
You know,
According to them.
according to them,
Involuntarily.
involuntarily.
Yeah. Well,
Um,
yeah, it's definitely not. It's so funny because it's like they're not actually doing it involuntarily. It's just they're not lucky, or they think they're so ugly that they can't get anyone, and they have a
Yeah.
shitty personality and blah 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 blah.
Wow.
All the excuses in the fucking book.
Yeah.
But okay, we need to
Yeah,
stop talking
swing
about
it back.
incels, bro.
Swing it back.
Swing it back.
Bring her back.
Bring her back. Bring her back, ladies and gentlemen. So, I would like to structure this more in a way where it's like we're talking about our experience with relationships, right? And keeping
Yeah.
it in that ballpark because everyone's had different experiences, right? Everyone has different views on relationships. Everyone has different standards, ideas, ideals, what they expect out of a relationship, right?
Mm-hmm.
Especially in your 20s.
Yes.
Well, me and Tyler are both 23, and let me just say, sorry for not telling you our names last week. I am Joey.
Yeah,
This is
I'm Tyler.
Jesus Christ. You didn't even, if you didn't watch the whole podcast, you don't even know our
Yeah,
names.
you don't even know our names. Maybe by chance we did mention
Right.
our names a couple times because I'm like, I am
Right.
Tyler. Like, this is me.
Did we? I don't
At
know
some
if we
point,
did.
it was like in an example, but it wasn't like introducing myself.
I don't know if
no.
we did, but honestly, either way, now you know. But
Yes.
me and Tyler have had similar experiences with relationships to
Yeah.
some degree.
To some degree.
But also, I've talked to a lot of people outside my friend groups and outside the people that I know personally, and they've had similar experiences too, man. Like, I am of the mindset when it comes to human experience, but especially relationships in general, that people are way more similar than they are different. You know, like people have had way more similar experiences, and not to the not like to the detail. Where are you going?
I'm listening. It was caught on the rug. It was moving it closer.
Oh, okay. But yeah, people have had so many similar experiences. Why do I have trouble with
Experiences.
experiences? Oh my god, I'm like trying to add another plural
No,
to it.
yeah, you can't. It's twice as plural.
Experiences is-
Experiences.
That's funny, but
Experience I.
experience. Yeah, that's what I was thinking. But no, like I've talked to so many people, and like I think the cool thing is that like when you are open to hearing other people's experiences, is I'm literally not gonna say the word anymore. Can you just say it for me whenever I'm about to say it? Just
each other's experiences.
experiences. Done.
Not
I'm gonna-
not
I'm gonna
experiences
hold up the
is.
sign
It's not
with the pronunciation.
Yeah. Experience. Only one. Only one.
Yeah.
Um,
But yeah, dude, like, so again, me and Tyler have had pretty similar experiences,
good.
and we think fairly similarly about relationships, and we've talked a lot about what we want, what we expect in the future,
Yes.
all that kind of stuff. So I think it's an interesting topic to bring up, and also get that perspective from us, like get to know us, how we think about that particular subject, all that kind of jazz.
Yeah,
right?
it goes into everything that we were saying last week
Yeah.
about, you know, getting to know us and
Yeah.
get an idea of who we are.
I think it's all connected, but I also do want to talk about it more in like an objective, like kind of outside perspective. Like this is how relationships look like to us. Like this is like what our experiences, how that has changed our perspective on relationships in general,
I get
on a
what
more
you're
like
going.
general macro scale.
Yes.
So I think to start out, we can start just talking about, you know, what we've been, me and Tyler, like, we'll start from like, cause even high school, like I barely count as a relationship.
Yeah, but I
thing,
feel
right?
like high school is not like a milestone, but a good maybe point to start at.
It's a foundation
because
thing,
you
yeah.
know we go from being very like hopeless romantic,
Oh, man.
immature, you know,
Which is most
ignorant. Yeah, which is basically anyone in high school.
people.
but,
Literally
like,
everyone.
like we were just ignorant, hopeless, romantic fucks, and
Yeah, that's accurate.
I feel like that's a good starting point because maybe there's still some people that are stuck in those phases where
Oh, there definitely are.
you know
Definitely
and
are.
haven't really been in serious relationships or anything,
Yeah.
and have a foundation to base an idea of what
Yeah.
relationships should even look like.
Right, and
You know.
unfortunately, I feel like a lot of people are raised with a lot of warped ideas, or their parents don't even really give them a foundation to go off of, right? Or that
Yeah.
foundation is so shitty that you grow up and you realize, oh, there's no way I can follow this. Like
Right.
this guideline will not work because my parents are divorced. You know, like,
this doesn't add up.
right?
Like I don't.
This just ain't gonna work, chief.
Yeah.
Like, and you know that. And
Right.
when you start to meet other people and see how other relationships actually are, or maybe should be, then you start to be like, okay, cool. But I think for me though, it's like I never looked at other people's relationships and was like, wow, I want that. You know?
Yeah, I could maybe
Besides,
if I
like-
like pull out the memory bank,
Right.
try to like find a couple examples.
I'm speaking
but-
more towards like what I experience now, but like when I was in high school, I looked at like movies and like shows
Yeah.
and like all that
Yeah,
like
oh,
mushy
Jim,
gushy
Jim and
bullshit.
Pam from The
Bro.
Office,
And like
fucking-
shout out Jim and Pam, like we love Jim and Pam, but like it's not real.
No,
They're not
yeah.
married in real life.
right.
Let's cut to the chase. I mean,
Yeah.
that's just a sad fact.
Yeah.
You know, as much as chemistry they have on the show.
Just
I mean,
shows relationship.
yeah, it's a show relationship, and you know, of course, you can look at that and be like, yeah, like that'd be nice to have a relationship where like you can joke around and
I
work
want to go
together.
work
and
at an office
my
and
fantasy.
end up marrying the secretary.
Bro, there's
That'd
gonna
be
be-
so cool.
So many people are gonna be like doing some role play office shit in the bedroom when they're married later on, bro. Like it's just gonna be like, okay, now you
Oh,
be,
you're the Jim to my Pam.
can we switch it up today, honey? I'll be Jim, you be Pam. Oh my god, some gender switching right
Jesus
there.
Christ.
It's gonna get spicy, but no, for real.
Spicy.
I
Okay.
definitely was of that. I didn't like literally. I wasn't thinking like I'm going to derive all of my ideas about
need to be
relationships from this.
Jim, yeah.
No, I definitely wasn't like that. It was more subconscious, right?
Yeah.
It was more just like
You
oh,
watch it and you're like,
yeah.
this is nice. Like
and you're,
that seems
it
like
gives
a
you
nice
that
relationship.
feeling, right? And then you feel that feeling, and you're like, I want to feel that with someone in my life,
Mm-hmm.
you know. So I want to create that, which is totally. It's like the same essence of like you want to be happy, right?
Right.
You want to find someone that makes you feel good,
Right.
right? So understandable, right? The initial want is totally understandable on a human
Yes.
level, but when you really look at it now, it's like that's just another craving, bro.
Oh yeah.
You're looking for something within you outside of yourself, right? That's really what it is. And lo and behold, after having
Lo
been,
and behold.
I like that phrase.
Thank you. Yeah.
I said it.
Oh yeah. I thought you were gonna say you like the way
I like the way you
it.
said it. Yeah, I do
no.
like the way you said it though.
No.
But
okay.
no,
Thanks.
like, but yeah, no, like I think when it came down to like actually being in relationships, I experienced that mushy gushy feeling for maybe some times in the beginnings of my relationship, you know, honeymoon phase, all that shit.
Oh yeah.
And I felt like, yeah, like this is possible, right? Like you convince yourself for a bit, but then you hit that toxic mudslide after like 3 or 6 months, and it's all downhill from there, baby.
Oh yeah.
The thing that happens, I think, in relationships a lot of the time is like you have that honeymoon phase. You feel good. You're connected with this person. You're trying new things. You're getting to know them. It's all fun and games. And then it's not like when you run out of things to learn about that person, because I don't think that really ever happens.
No, I don't think that should happen.
It shouldn't, because we're always constantly changing. So if you're not aware of that, then
well, yeah, like if you're constantly paying attention to yourself and learning new things about yourself,
you're evolving.
There should always be a plethora of things to talk about with another person, and
exactly,
things to learn from another person if they're doing the same.
So it's really, it shouldn't be like a brick wall that you hit after a certain amount of time. That's not it either.
No.
But
mental blockage.
Here's what does happen is you get comfortable after a certain amount of time. And once you get comfortable, you really start to show some of those deep, subconscious foundational things that are a part of you and a part of everyone, right? And you can't hide them forever. As much as you may try. As much as you may try and act like you're a perfect human being that's just like so caring and so awesome all the time and
you're
funny.
Like, kind of trying to fit to their...
like I could be funny and sit here all day and act like I'm a comedian, but at the end of the day, I'm going to be crying watching some fucking shows and like, just like in my feelings, like, and that's totally normal and fine.
Right.
But when people have certain expectations of certain naive expectations when they're in their first relationship, or like they, have only, outside perspective to go off of, not their own experience, then you're just like, oh shit, like what am I doing? You
kind of walk around with your head cut off.
Yeah. And then if you meet someone who potentially is trying to manipulate that naivety,
which definitely
happens.
People that do that.
And there's people who do it purposely, and there's people who do it without
unknowingly,
realizing,
because they're ignorant as well.
Exactly.
They don't realize that what they're doing is manipulation.
And so when you get comfortable, that insecurity comes up, you start to want to be like, hold on, like, wait, I'm feeling insecure. I need to make sure you're staying here and I can trust you and I can make sure that you're going to be there. Right. Yeah. And so again, the clinging, the claws come out, right? It's like that, it's like the stereotype of, especially with girls, I think you stereotype them like, oh, like, she's a clinger or like whatever, Yeah. But guys can be just as bad.
Yeah, I was gonna say, it definitely goes both ways. I'm sure there's like girls who look at guys and
I've talked to many girls
clingy as fuck.
Absolutely, absolutely. So it can go both ways. There's no gender divide there. No. But I think it is a little different based on if it is a guy or a girl. The feeling of it is probably a bit different. Yeah. But regardless, the initial source of that is insecurity and lacking, and I need to make sure that this person isn't going to leave me, right? Right. Because
if they leave me, then I'm empty.
Then I'm empty, right? Because if you put all your marbles, your emotional marbles, right?
Yeah,
like all of your energy into someone, all of your hopes and dreams, all of your everything. And again, this is where it comes back around with like what you watched growing up as a kid, like the types of movies, the types of media you consume, the way your parents interact, the way that family members interact, right? All that stuff ties into it. And you grow up and you think of life again as like this linear thing, like, oh, like, a big part of your life is, for a lot of people, and I get it, is finding someone, right? Finding love, finding connection,
companionship,
right? Which is a human thing,
right?
This is a basic human, like, it's not a survival thing. Well, like, in a way, it's reproduction, right? Like, you have that primal, like,
maybe not survival.
No, it's definitely not
like
survival.
It's like a primordial.
It's biological.
Instinct,
it's biological.
Yeah, like
the need for intimacy, the need for connection, the need for socialization. We've evolved so much to need that, right? Yeah. That is part of our
we're very social
human experiences. We are, and we need to be,
right,
to some extent, right? But when you get to a certain age and you start to experience romantic feelings for someone else, whether it's a guy or a girl, you're not careful about it, because you feel those things and you're just like, okay, I want it. I want to go for it. I'm gonna get in a relationship. It's gonna be so sick.
I haven't felt like this before.
Right. It feels awesome. It's like crack.
Yeah.
And so
feed me some of that.
I need that good relationship. Ooh. But no, really, it is like that, and I'm sure everyone's experienced that. If they're are an adult, right? Yeah. Because even like when you're like a young teenager, you start to experience that. Even in middle school, even in elementary school, dude, I had a crush on a girl in elementary school.
Yeah, I was gonna say I had crushes in elementary school.
It's ridiculous, and it starts early, man. And I think it's weird because like I can go back and kind of see like how I was prioritizing that in my own mind over other things, right? Like I would spend hours and days and weeks just fantasizing about people, right?
Yeah.
Throughout my entire childhood, teenagehood, adulthood, right? Not not literally every single moment, right?
Every single second
No,
of
but,
every
like,
single day.
But think about how much time you really spent. Like, it's a lot
Yeah,
of
there's a
time,
good chunk.
you
I
know?
mean, instead of like, I mean, I guess it is like daydreaming and shit, right? You're
Oh,
just
it
like
is.
sitting there, but instead of like random shit, you're like, oh man, a
Yeah.
relationship would be nice right now.
Absolutely.
I could see myself with this person. That would be cool.
Yeah.
Whatever.
All that stuff. And, like, it's totally valid to some extent, but I think the problem that it causes once you get older is that, maybe you go through a relationship or two, maybe, it's pretty toxic, maybe it's pretty awful, Most people have had at least one or two awful experiences with relationships.
Hell yeah.
Me and Tyler are going for the 20 bomb.
Oh, 20 bomb. We're dropping a 20. We're about to
dropping-
do, fucking get a 25
Yeah.
kill streak.
Yeah,
drop
we're
a
trying
nuke.
to hit like 20 toxic relationships by the time we're 30.
Drop a mega toxic nuke on you.
No, I
Yeah.
mean, me and Tyler have been through a similar amount of toxic relationships.
Yeah, I'd say so.
Like, probably like, I would say, for me, it's like 3 or 4.
I don't know
Maybe
about like 3 or 4.
I think
for
2 or
me.
3.
There's like one that's like 100%, like
Yeah.
no question about it, and then like
Yeah,
maybe
yeah.
a couple questionable ones.
Well,
but
and then what does toxic mean? That's the real question.
yeah, it's like how you define it.
You could
as
define it in
well.
a lot of different ways.
Mm-hmm.
For me, toxic to me looks like someone who is purposely trying to hurt you, someone who is purposely trying to, even if they're not conscious of it, someone who is hurting you, right?
Yeah, I wouldn't say purposely.
Right.
I think a lot of toxicity
It's
happens
unconscious, yeah.
unconsciously. Yeah.
Well, but the result's still the same, right?
Results still the same, but like you'd say purposely, and that makes it
Yeah.
seem like there's an intent
No.
to hurt someone, right?
I don't think most of the time people are not intending to hurt anyone, especially people they're with.
Yeah,
you know?
I wouldn't necessarily think people would join a relationship just to hurt someone.
No,
but, like,
no, definitely not.
Yeah,
Well,
I
again,
think-
usually the intentions are so pure when you first start out in a relationship.
Right, but they get all like misconstrued and
Mm-hmm.
fucking out of whack
Yeah.
by these fantastical thoughts that you have and shit.
I really
that
do
could
believe
steer you.
a big part of it is living in the past, living in the future, trying to, mold the other person to exactly the way you want them to be.
Yeah.
Trying to make situations as pretty and nice as possible.
Yeah.
If you have any conflicts, just push them down, like just
Yeah.
push them aside, whatever. Avoidance, right?
Yeah,
It's
avoidance.
avoidance
of
while
the
clinging.
inevitable. Yeah.
It's like two opposing forces. Like, you're clinging on to this person, you're in love with this person, you want to be with them, but you also are trying to avoid a lot of conflicts and bothering them. And that's the thing I noticed too with almost every girl I've been with is like it's like they're afraid to cause any issues, so they don't
Yeah.
say anything or they don't want to start anything,
Right.
And it's like, by doing that, you avoid things, and then they come up later because you're bottling it down within
Right.
yourself, and then it causes issues.
Yeah, like
right?
like something bothers you in a moment. You're in a relationship
Yeah.
with your partner. Something bothers you in a moment, and you're like, "Oh, I don't want to bring this up now,
Right.
whatever." And then you bring it up later after it's been bottled up for so long, and like, yeah.
And the other person's just like, what?
Other person's like, "Yeah, like what? Like, why
where
are you
the
saying
fuck
this
did
now?"
this come
Like,
from? You
yeah.
know, like, I didn't even know you were
Yeah.
thinking about that.
Right.
That happens so much.
So frequently.
Oh my god.
Yeah, I like multiple occasions that like from myself and like partners in relationships.
Yeah.
It goes both ways, right?
Yeah,
Like,
and I think part of the problem is like, I think girls, especially from my perspective, they seem very like hesitant to do that because there's like a power dynamic that they may be feeling, right? Like a lack
Yeah.
of power in a male-female relationship, right?
Yeah, maybe.
And that's probably ingrained in them from their previous relationships where a guy made them feel less than, a guy made them feel...
God, yeah, the
Yeah.
amount of times I heard that, like,
Yeah.
growing up
Oh,
and talking
absolutely.
to girls, like, oh, my last boyfriend was abusive. Or,
Absolutely.
like, my last boyfriend was
I think every
this,
single
and
girl
it's like,
Every single girl that I've been in a relationship with has had a...
a
has had
vast
trauma.
majority
Yeah.
of the girls that I've talked to have
Yeah.
had...
Yeah, even just talk to.
Yeah.
Absolutely. It's awful.
It's kind of fucked when you
It
think
is
about
extremely
it,
awful.
but-
And like, how do you deal with trauma outside of a relationship, right?
Mhm.
How do you deal with trauma outside of a relationship? It's no different, right?
Mhm.
If you have trauma from past relationships, what do? You have to do something, right?
Right.
Because if you don't do anything, you're just going to continue the cycle in the next relationship and the next relationship and the next relationship. And you're bringing down a relationship with the thoughts and feelings and perspectives that you have from a past
Of a
relationship.
past one, yeah. You're, like, bringing the
It's not
past
fair.
one in.
It's like you're dragging a
Yeah.
zombie behind you. You
Yeah.
know, it's like just like a giant weight.
Yeah, that
You
kind of
know?
goes into what we were talking about last week about, like, carrying, like, unnecessary
Burden.
things along
Yeah.
with you. Like, yeah, because
It's so easy to do.
Yeah.
You know, especially when the burdens are very heavy. Like
Yeah.
I'm not here to like make people's experience feel, you know, like they're not that big of a deal. They are.
yeah,
I've experienced some awful shit in the past.
Hell
Tyler has
yeah.
experienced some awful shit in the past.
fuck yeah.
A lot of people I know have experienced awful, traumatic things in relationships in the past.
Mm-hmm.
The question becomes, though, like, it's not when are you going to let that go? No, you don't have to let it go. You don't
Yeah.
have to forget about it, erase it
Yeah,
from
it's
existence.
not like sweeping it under the rug.
No,
and
no, no,
it's
no.
never gonna come
When are you
back.
going to accept it fully?
Coming to terms.
When are you going to fully love what, you know, that memory of it? When are you going to change that feeling of, oh my God, this makes me so sad, this makes me so depressed, I can't trust anyone, blah, blah, blah. When are you going to change that?
Yeah.
And how are you going to change that?
Right.
Right? Because it's not easy,
Not at all.
not by any means.
God, no.
But it surely is not easier to just be alone for the rest of your life.
No.
Right? It
Yeah.
surely is not easier to just sit there and act like eventually over time this will just magically heal itself.
Right.
You know, because that's not really how it works in
Not
my
at all.
experience,
Yeah.
at least.
No, I mean, and it kind of sucks because, you know, like growing up and you're in like a high school relationship, you get your heart broken in 3 months, and you know the cliche advice that adults or friends or anyone gives you, because it's all anyone knows what the fuck to say, is, you know, like, oh, time heals all, right? Like,
It's not just time.
but it's like, it's not just time. You gotta put some fucking effort into it
You
too.
really
You can't
do.
just like sit there and
You really
not
do.
proactively try to resolve what's going on in your
Absolutely.
head from
And
your relationship.
And so
Like,
how do you really do that? I think it's there's a lot of layers to it. You have to look at your life and see what is holding you back from healing from that situation, and if you're not prioritizing your mental health.
Yeah.
Right. That's one of the biggest things,
Yeah.
because all of the problems that you have with past relationships is within your mind. Right.
Right.
It's all created within there. Right. So how are you going to tackle that problem? Are you going to work with your mind or against it? Right. Are you going to try and run away and
Are
fight
you
it and
gonna
resist it?
resist, or are you gonna work together?
Right, and it can be your friend just as much as it can be your, you know, foe.
Enemy,
It could
yeah.
fuck your shit up.
Hell
But like,
yeah.
it really can. But
Yeah.
like, I don't know. You have to start by accepting it, obviously, acknowledging that it happened, and then you have to go through a process of being very gentle with yourself, being very gentle and figuring out how you need to change this memory in your head to be one where you can be like, you know what, this is okay, right? I am okay with this, and
Yeah.
I can change these feelings that I
Like,
have
this
towards
feels
it.
much better to sit with compared to like where it was before.
Right,
Like,
and you don't have to. It doesn't have to be perfect, right? It doesn't have to be like, I feel great about this.
Yeah, like,
I'm
oh,
so glad I was abused.
oh, my
you know?
girlfriend cheated on me, and
Yeah.
I'm so loving about it. I
You should
love
not. You should not love the situation that happened. You don't want to do that.
It. Yeah.
But you want to change the feeling that you have associated with it to love, just for your own sake.
Right.
Just for your own sake of not holding that burden and not letting it weigh you down subconsciously.
Right.
And there's not, here's another thing too, is like people think there's like some magical point where you're like, I am fully healed. I'm ready to go. No. Even if you think you're single, you think you're totally over your ex, you're totally like feeling good, whatever. When you start to talk to someone again, here comes the
Yeah.
fucking train, bro.
Here comes the pain.
Yeah, here comes the fucking pain. For real.
It's the best fucking.
Yes.
Jesus.
And it happens
Yeah.
whether you want it to or not, because when you start to, those romantic feelings start to come up,
It
those
starts
feelings of
coming back.
love, it brings all the other shit with it, right? And then you really see what you have to work on,
Yeah.
right? And again, if you meet someone that you really like and you really feel a connection with, running away from that because of those feelings coming up is not only unfair to them, but it's unfair to yourself, because
Right.
you're just prolonging the inevitable.
You're
of
like
having to deal
taking
with it.
something away from yourself because you're
Yeah.
afraid of what could happen.
Yeah.
Right. Like,
And it's unfortunate because I think so many people do that.
oh yeah.
So many
Oh,
people.
absolutely. Like,
It's like a real problem in our generation, I think.
I think so too.
Everyone's so damaged. Everyone is so, and identified with their past traumas with
Yeah.
relationships, and it's like they think the solution is just avoid being in a relationship, just avoid connecting with people, just avoid this, that.
Yeah,
And
I can never trust anyone
I can
again.
never
I
trust
can never
anyone again.
love anyone again.
What are you solving by doing nothing?
Yeah.
Right? Or being indifferent?
Or
right?
by holding on to it like that.
Yeah,
like,
it's literally it's causing more problems for you.
Yeah.
And the more you do it, the stronger it gets.
Yeah.
Right?
You're feeding more energy into it.
Yeah.
By, avoiding it like that.
Absolutely. It becomes stronger, man. It feeds off that indifference. It feeds off that, like, whatever. Like, I don't care. And again, you have to take the dive at some point.
Yeah.
You have to.
For your own sake.
For your own sake, yeah. And, like, there's so many great people out there, man. I've met so many wonderful guys and girls out there who are totally capable of being in a healthy relationship. Again, actually, being in a relationship is a whole nother ballgame. We'll get into that, too. But, like, just... I feel like I've talked to so many girls from dating apps, so many girls from other places, and just throughout my life, and it's like I feel like a good chunk of them are just very, very hesitant to even, and it's like I get it to a large extent, right? Like it's like trust issues, really. Yeah. That's a big thing. It's like opening up to someone,
which I think is another part that's just like super prevalent with our generation.
Oh, it is.
It's just like trust issues is like a pretty big chunk of like where all those issues kind of arise from.
And it's also a big problem too is like it's almost like a meme to be like closed off and like be like, oh, like I'm edgy and like I don't talk about my feelings.
Yeah,
like,
it kind of is meme.
It is like a meme.
Yeah,
it's meme.
Yeah, it's meme.
Seriously though, like it's you joke about it. People joke about it like, oh, like I haven't talked to anyone about my feelings in like 8 months. Like that's not funny. That's awful. I'm sorry for you.
Like that sucks.
That really sucks. Like that's not how humans are meant to live.
Nah. Yeah.
And I'm not advising you to just like fucking jump around from relationship to relationship without giving a fuck.
Fucking
I did that. I tried that one out.
That's high school for me.
I tried that one out and it don't work very well.
Fucking stupid.
Yeah.
So dumb.
I mean, dude, I went from
you don't even think twice about what the fuck you're doing. You're just dating to date. And it's like, why?
Well, it's like, I remember in high school, it was like, okay, I like this one girl. And it either works out or it doesn't work out. And if it doesn't work out, then okay, who's the next girl?
Yeah, I like this new girl. And
I need to find someone else to like.
It's like oh yeah, it's like you're pursuing something.
It's like a cycle, bro. It's like you're just going on and on and on and on. It never fucking ends.
Yeah,
it's psychotic.
Yo, definitely. Yeah, psychotic is a good. Yeah,
like, you're doing the same thing over and over again, expecting a different
outcome. Yeah.
Because
when you haven't changed anything,
right? You're still a naive, insecure little fart boy in high school. Like you're not gonna actually do anything,
right?
You don't have confidence. You don't have anything. You don't even know who you are.
Yeah.
Right. That's the thing. Like I would advise people who are younger to just like don't even bother, bro.
Yeah.
Literally force yourself to focus on yourself completely. Right. Mm-hmm. And I wouldn't say like don't talk to people. Don't like explore.
Yeah,
some
it's
of those
not like
feelings.
Closing yourself off from opportunities.
No, if there's an opportunity where you meet someone who's like-minded and also trying to prioritize themselves and like,
there's that mutual interest and like what's the
I think it's just hard. I don't think I met really anyone who was like I really prioritize my mental health and
because was that even a fucking thing in high school?
Mental health was. It was
mental health.
It was just more of like a joke. I feel like
it like wasn't to the extent of like what we understand it as today.
Not. Like, and that's just from experience.
If someone were to like mention like meditation and like mindfulness and other things
never
that
heard
help
that
with, like,
until I was out of
health,
high school.
Exactly. I wasn't even introduced to ideas like that until later on.
Right, and so that really those formational times in your life really they build the foundation of like what you expect out of shit. But I think you can easily change that and like demolish that foundation if you want to. Yeah. Right? But it's not through like trying to figure out, exactly what you want out of relationships and blah, blah, blah. It's through figuring out yourself first and then the other stuff comes after. Right. And figuring out yourself is surely not like once task. I reach this point, then I've figured it out.
Yeah.
That's definitely not
It's an ongoing process.
It's a process.
There's no like ending to that.
So if you're in that process though, you're doing it right.
Yeah. I think if you're anywhere in the process,
anywhere, there is no like beginning and end. It's just a process. You're involved with
just
that process.
Started, been working at it for years. Same difference,
right? And so I think when it comes to relationships now too, it's like I cannot imagine being with someone who is not aware of that process and doesn't prioritize themselves before the relationship.
Yeah,
Yeah. Because that creates so many problems when the relationship is above all else.
Dude, and I think like. I don't even think like I really understood what that meant until like a couple years ago. Like Like, it takes some time to like really grasp what it means, like prioritize yourself. Like,
Yeah, that's such a vague concept, especially when you're younger.
Right,
You know?
because you're like, oh, like I do, like I'm living my life, I'm making
such a-
decisions for myself, and blah blah
No.
blah. But it's like, but
Anyone
are you
can do
like,
that.
yeah, and everyone is doing that.
Yeah,
Everyone's
everyone's always
living
doing
their
it,
own life,
yeah.
but it's like, are you prioritizing like stuff for your own good?
Exactly.
Like, for your own good in your life, are you doing
In
things
every
like,
area of your life, you can very specifically and purposely tweak it so that it's benefiting you in a positive way, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it's making your experience easier, lighter, more mentally, neutral.
Gentle, yeah.
Gentle, yeah, absolutely. So it's not just one thing. It's not just go to therapy and you'll be fine.
right?
No, because if you go to therapy and you don't bring anything
It's
out
a
of therapy,
start.
it's
It's
a
a
start.
start.
Oh, absolutely. I
Yeah.
think, like we were talking about last episode,
Right.
everyone should go to therapy, but like that's just one aspect of it, you know?
Mhm.
And I think truly you need to work with, all of the shit that you've carried from your past, not even just within relationships, but just outside traumas and experiences that were tough and all this other shit. You need to really work with all that stuff and figure out why it's still weighing you down, what you can do to get past some of that stuff while still, accepting it. And, it's a lot of different things, man, but it's not easy.
Yeah,
But it's
definitely
certainly, I think it's certainly a lot harder to just exist in that confused, like, what the fuck am I doing state,
it's a gray area.
Because that feels like absolute shit.
Yeah, you're kind of just
Yeah.
going day by day, like not
Yeah.
knowing what the fuck is going on.
Because I think the problem is people are like trying to like figure out the things in their mind. They're trying to solve them.
Mm-hmm.
There's nothing to solve, dude. You just accept everything that is going on in your mind right now, and that's it. That's all you can do, right? And those subconscious things are going to come up when they come up, right? But you can't control that.
right,
You absolutely can't, but you can control the relationship to it and the reaction to those things that come up, right? But yeah, I think so. Back to the whole thing about relationships, though, I think like we have to be very cognizant of like the way that we look at things now and the way that we looked at them before, and why the way we looked at it before was not okay, right? Or
Right.
why we evolve in
Incorrect,
this way,
and why?
right?
Yeah,
Because if we didn't, I would probably be like married with kids in like a toxic marriage
fucking
right now, like
Jesus Christ,
holy
yeah.
shit, that's scary to think about, right?
Or just like relationship hopping onto the next one.
Yeah.
Like, still to this day,
Right.
fucking
Yeah, and that's no way to live. Absolutely not.
fuck no.
Me and Tyler spent, a lot of time just like being very stagnant in relationships, right?
Mm-hmm.
I remember feeling so just like, unenthused by life and just so like blah.
Yeah.
Relationships do not solve your lacking in your own personal
fuck
experiences.
no. They can add so much more like
Yeah.
stress and
Yeah.
bullshit.
Well,
and,
the crazy thing about relationships too is like they kind of mirror everything within
yeah,
you,
from
right?
from inside, right?
Yeah.
I mean, it kind of goes with the saying like you gotta like love yourself before you can love someone else.
To some extent,
To
yeah.
some extent.
What does
Like,
that mean though, right?
Well, I think that kind of ties in with like prioritizing yourself 1st, right? But
That's
like,
love, yeah.
yeah, but like tying
part
that
of
in
it.
with relationships, like you got to learn to like accept yourself and work through your own shit, because if not, then the way that you're viewing yourself and the things that you're working out, right, it's going to be more prevalent in the relationship, and it's going to affect the relationship.
It's gonna
in
come
those
out
ways.
more and more, and you won't be able to control it. 'Cause
Right.
It's too powerful.
Right.
You know? It's like you have all these demons and monsters within you, and you gotta fucking
Tame those motherfuckers.
tame those motherfuckers. You don't have to slay them.
No.
You know? I mean, you could with some of them.
Could,
maybe.
yeah,
You
fucking.
just fucking slice them in half. I mean, you can brute force some of these things to some extent, right?
Yeah, I guess
Like
so.
if you're really working through something and you're just like, oh my god, when you get sick enough of something, you will figure out a way.
Yeah, I think
You will
that's fair
figure
to
out
say,
a way.
most
If you
definitely.
get sick enough of feeling like a certain, that's like that depressive, like
Yeah.
angry energy. Like, you're like,
Yeah.
oh my god, I am so
like,
ang-"
I'm so fucking done with this.
yes,
Like,
and like that, you can work that
Yeah.
into your advantage. I think.
Yeah, I
right?
think
Like you
so.
really can.
you can turn that into fuel.
Absolutely, it
Yeah.
is fuel. You know, and you can go in the complete opposite direction.
Yeah, you can
think.
use that fuel in a bad way too. Like,
Oh, absolutely. And you could start like fucking like slamming like
rampage.
fucking.
I mean, that's
bottles
that's
of
like
alcohol.
the
Yeah, yeah.
incel bombing colleges
Oh, absolutely.
and shit, right? Like,
Oh, absolutely. It goes
turning that
both ways.
frustration, like I don't give a fuck anymore.
Right.
Like,
But and that's why I brought up the incel thing as kind of like a joke, but like at the same time, they're their lacking of like intimacy and connection is the same as anyone else's. They just use that fuel and that feeling of like, damn, this sucks. I hate that I'm in this situation. They use that in the wrong way.
Yeah.
Period. And like, you can say they're evil, right, for making that choice, but like, you got to understand the source of that choice.
Yeah. The
right?
environment that fed them that.
Exactly.
Right?
We talked about that shit last time, so I won't go too deep into it, but it's like, you have to acknowledge that within everyone, right? You have to, or else you're just going to be naive. And like, when people do bad, dumb shit, like you're just going to be like, what do I like? You're going to be like, what the fuck? Like, and you're not going to know why, but you have to try and understand people, right? And if you don't understand people, you're screwed.
I think there's some value to trying to understand people rather than
always
just
value in
labeling it as
There's
like
always value in
it's
that.
like, oh, incel bombed to college, he's an evil guy. But like, there's something that you can
Get out of that.
Absolutely. Rather than just looking at him as like a bomber, a terrible person. Be like, I wonder what happened to him that caused him to do that, like to get to that state of mind where he's like, all right, like I've just had enough of this fucking bullshit. Like,
it's so much easier to just look at it and be like, oh, that's evil and awful and he should die.
It's a lot easier.
So much easier. It takes like 5 seconds to think,
because you don't have you don't have to think about it any further than the surface level of what it's at. But like, what's beneath the surface?
Right.
Like,
and if you really dig beneath the surface, you find humanness, right? You find it's understandable to some degree, right? Like you can relate to that, right? If you felt any sort of feelings of lacking when it comes to romantic relationships and feeling like you're lonely and blah blah blah, that's just that feeling to like amplified to a million degrees, right? And again, they're just a product of their environment, so that was probably enhanced by that environment and upbringing, you know? I don't know, I feel very grateful to a large extent that I was brought up in the way I was brought up, because I feel like I was free to kind of figure my own shit out, you know? As much as like, you know, maybe sometimes I wasn't taught exactly the things I should have been taught. I figured it out on my own. And, you know, and it's not figuring it out like I have the perfect set of ways of looking at relationships.
Like this is the ultimate way to...
It's just, I felt free to explore different perspectives and possibilities and not feel constrained by one set of ideas or like an ideology when it comes to that, you know? And like, even when it comes to like looking at my parents' relationship, that view of it has changed so much throughout my life, you know? And it has shaped the way that I view relationships and what I want out of relationships too, you know? And I think that's the ideal, right? As a parent, you know, thinking about how it would be to be a parent. Like, I want my kid to evolve past where I was able to get, or where I am, you know, as you know, whoever I'm married to or with when I have kids, if I have kids, right? I want them to evolve past that, and I want them to grow from my mistakes and see like, you know, oh shit, like he did this, maybe I won't do that. Or he did this and this worked, maybe I will do that, you know? So you take the good and the bad and learn from it, which is hard to do though.
Definitely.
You know, especially like for people who have divorced parents, man, that's tough.
Oh yeah.
That's real tough. It's like, cause that looks like a failure to you when you're a kid.
Yeah.
Oh, they failed at being in a relationship.
Yeah.
There is no failure though, right?
No, I mean, I wouldn't say so.
I don't think it's a failure. I don't think it's a loss. I don't think
no, because there's everything that there's always something to take from a relationship. There's always some learning, you know, experience that you can get from it.
Absolutely.
I don't think you just have to look at it as like a failure. Like, sure, like the relationship didn't work, and in a, you know, logical sense, the relationship failed, but like you don't have to look at it so negatively and
right. And like, if you're looking at a relationship as like this game of like you either win or you lose, like what does winning look like? What the fuck does winning look like?
Fucking I don't.
So if you're in a happy marriage for 10, 20 years and you're happy and whatever, and like anyone can just be married to someone and exist, right? What does winning actually look like? What is that concept has always boggled my mind, because people look at other people's relationships and they're like, oh, they look so happy, they seem so blah 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 blah. And it's like, you don't know jack fucking shit.
It's like you're seeing shit that you see on like fucking social media. Like,
that too,
like they're fucking like in Florida taking a picture together, looking happy. It's like, like you'd look kind of happy if you were in Florida too. I'm like, fucking
right now, especially, right?
Yeah, like, but like you don't know what the fuck's actually going on in their relationship,
and you never
if the
will
relationship is actually working out, or if they're just like posing for the fucking gram.
You never will know, even if you lived with a couple, right? I mean, like living with your parents, right? Like you still don't know, right? You don't know the half of it,
right?
So
even close,
not even close. So like, and all the history in the relationship,
Yeah.
all the moments where you weren't there,
Mhm.
all the moments where you weren't.
I mean,
there.
there was a whole like lifetime of their relationship
Literally.
before you were even like alive.
Yeah, so like you have to factor that in
Yeah.
and realize that your view of them is very skewed
Yes.
and very inaccurate.
Mm-hmm.
Truly, you know, because not only are you naive when you're younger, but you don't have the context of why they are the way they are and why they interact the way they interact.
Yeah.
You know, so you really have to create your own template, I think, as you get older and as you become an adult, and be like, what do I really want, right? What is the set of things that are deal breakers for me? What are the things that I need in a relationship in order to feel content, right?
Yeah.
And what are my expectations? Why do I even want to be in a relationship, right? Like, what's the point?
What's the point? Yeah. What's the?
Because that's a huge question I ask myself and other people that I talk
Yeah.
to too. Like, why do you even want to
like.
be?
Is it? Is
Like,
it?
what are we
for-
doing here,
Is
you
it
know?
for sex? Is it for companionship? Is it because you're lonely? Is it because you're trying to fill a void?
Because
Like,
all those reasons that you just listed, I don't think they're enough, right?
no,
that's
fuck
too
no.
that's
Like,
too simplistic.
No, it's too way too simplistic.
And it'll just lead to pain, right?
Yeah.
If you get in a relationship for those reasons, I don't think you're gonna be happy.
no,
Nor will the other person.
maybe temporarily because
You
you're
might get your
temporarily
fix,
filling.
right?
Yeah, like
You might get your little fix of
Yeah.
sex or intimacy, but then eventually it's gonna go away because what is the foundation?
Yeah.
You wanted to be in this relationship because you felt a little lonely in a moment, right?
Yeah. I think that's a good point. Like, what was it? Like, what was the foundation built upon?
Right.
Like,
What if you're not
sex,
feeling
like,
lonely?
it's not going to be proper.
Yeah.
You know, it's not going to be long lasting. I would think. You know,
Absolutely.
I'm sure there's some relationships that might start on the foundation of like just a physical relationship that can evolve into something more. But
Yeah.
like, you know, what are actually the odds of like stuff like that happening for like multiple people? Like,
Yeah.
you know,
It's not very high, that's for
Yeah.
sure. And I don't know, man. I just think a lot of people, and myself included, more so in the past, but like, I think they just have very skewed ideas about relationships, you know?
Yeah.
And they're so.
should we like get into like our
Yeah.
like past views then? Should we?
Yeah,
like,
we could do
you know,
that.
Just
That's-
like.
so, like, what do you mean, like when we were growing up? Like,
Yeah,
when
like
we were
growing
really-
up, like how we like really saw relationships. Maybe
So-
like some like personal examples.
Yeah,
then,
I
too.
think for me, when I was like young, like I have very hazy memories of like when I was single digits, you know, like from 1 to 9. But
Yeah.
like I think I looked at my parents' relationship like, oh my god, like they're so happy and in love and blah blah blah.
Yeah.
Because they honestly like they were at that time, right? It seemed like they were,
Yeah.
right? Just based on my perception
I
of
would
what love
say
is.
same as well.
And I think as I became a teenager, it became a bit more like, oh, okay, like this, there's a little more nuance to this, right? Like they fought a little bit more or maybe they didn't fight more, but like I saw it more, right? You were aware of it. And because according to my parents, they were like, oh yeah, we fought all the time, at various points.
Yeah, my
you know?
parents have had issues throughout
Right.
my childhood,
And that's
stuff.
normal to some
Yeah,
extent.
I mean it's a relationship at the end of the day. Like
Right.
as we understand now
Yeah.
at this age, like relationships have issues. Like
Yeah, I think I'll get into that later, but like it's my perception of if that's, I don't mean normal in the sense of like I would expect that in my relationships. I mean normal in the sense of like that's what happened and that's how it was for them.
Yeah.
And that's their relationship, not mine.
Right.
So I think as I was growing up, teenager, pretty naive, pretty like unaware of like what a relationship actually means, you know, like what does it even entail?
yeah,
Until I actually got into like some relationships when I was in high school. And like most of them were pretty silly until I was like a junior
God.
in high school.
dude. Yeah, I mean fucking. I was in a relationship in 6th grade.
That's crazy. What?
6th to 7th grade.
Oh my god.
Yeah,
what?
like
That's wild.
yeah, like I don't even know if you can
That must have been
classify
so
that as
serious,
a
bro.
relationship. Yeah,
Did
we
you guys
were,
talk about marriage?
yeah,
kids?
probably. I don't know. Who fucking knows? It was super serious.
Oh.
God, just so madly in love.
God, so
As a
so intense.
fucking,
you know,
how old would I be in 6th grade? Like fucking 11,
something like that. Yeah, 11, 12.
something like that.
But yeah, I think when you're that young, you're doing it completely for the reasons of like I just want that mushy gushy feeling. Like
Oh, she's
I want to
cute.
hug. You know,
Yeah.
God, she's cute. Literally,
Yeah.
that is one of the biggest things. Is like when you look back at your past, and I'm sure people can relate to this. It's like you literally liked girls or anyone purely because of
Of
their
the way
look.
they looked, yeah. It's
and
like,
you fantasized based on that look.
Yeah, yeah.
You know,
yeah,
it's
absolutely.
insane.
Absolutely.
It's absolutely insane because let's be real. The people I had crushes on throughout like elementary school and middle school, I barely knew them.
yeah.
You know, I
Oh
barely,
yeah, 100%.
barely talked to them. Barely
Fucking-
spoke more than a few words to
Yeah.
them, probably.
Yeah.
So like, what am I basing that off of?
Yeah,
Nothing.
where am I getting that information? Like, you start fantasizing, like, oh yeah, like they're so cute, like I could see myself with them, and blah blah blah. But like, how your personality is gonna clash when you don't even fucking know.
We don't even
how they work. There's no foundation.
Our personality is completely like malleable and changing like so much around that age. So you can't even put a pin on it.
No,
right?
you can't. Yeah.
And we're not even aware of like wanting someone with a good personality.
Yeah, you just want someone who's attractive.
Literally.
Yeah.
And in large part, I think that's because of like the way that like you see people in movies, like they're attractive, like really like beautiful. You don't see ugly motherfuckers in like romance movies for the most part, right?
Yeah.
Like you just don't.
Yeah,
right?
It's just not really a thing.
And because it's not as pretty, right?
Yeah.
You want that pretty idealized version.
It's hard to romanticize like an ugly couple, right?
Even
like,
Beauty and the Beast, that motherfucker was banging once he was the beauty.
Once he
once he
was the beauty. No, the beauty's belt. The beauty's belt. No,
you're right. Shit.
He was the beast, but then turned out to be like a good-looking guy, right?
I know.
It's like what?
It's like ugly people can't do that though.
Yeah, it's like you can't just like fucking.
You can.
I don't remember how it happened. You know, they fell in love or something.
I don't even remember either.
Like, oh yeah, by the way, I'm attractive. Like,
right.
I'm not
isn't that great?
A man beast.
It's like, thank God.
Oh wow, yeah.
But people can't do that, right? Unless I mean, you can put some serious effort into like trying to make yourself seem more attractive. There's a lot of things you can do, but
sure, but like
if you're
is that what you want
if you're objectively like if your face is just not there, like sorry, but it doesn't mean you have no hope.
Yeah,
you can definitely find.
Doesn't
love
mean you
and
can't
happiness.
find. Yeah, I was just about to say. Doesn't mean you can't find love. Doesn't mean you can't. Fucking.
I really would if for people who think they're actually ugly, which. I've met so many guys and girls who think they're ugly and they're absolutely not even close to ugly. Most of them, 99% of them, I would say.
Yeah.
I've only met like a few people who I was like, yeah, you're kind of ugly.
It's like, shit, like I can't.
Right.
I can't lie, dude.
But I think it's usually like based on just like the way you take care of yourself, you know, like the way you dress, the way you carry yourself, your personality, all that stuff influences it, you know. Yeah. And people who like put themselves in this hole of like, oh, I can't be with anyone. I'm too ugly, or I'm too this. I'm not funny. I have no personality. Like, do you like? Is that something that's set in stone?
Yeah.
Fuck no.
Yeah.
Like, change that.
It's
if
like
you want,
label yourself and put yourself in the box and
right.
just sit there and you're like, this is me.
Right.
Like,
and what is thinking you're ugly gonna do for you?
Nothing.
There's literally no reason to think that. There's
literally
no
nothing.
Positive reason to think. You can think it. You can think anything about yourself and make it true if you try hard enough. But you know, you have to acknowledge that you're hurting yourself if you're doing that. You know, and it's skewing your perception of relationships as well. But anyways, back to like what we were talking about with like growing up. I think I got into my first serious relationship in my junior year, going into my senior year of high school that summer, and yeah, that was a crazy experience, bro. Lost in the fucking wind, bro. It was like a tornado.
I can contest to that.
Yeah, Tyler saw it happening, but you didn't even see. Again,
maybe
you
not
didn't
contest is the word. Is
I can
contest? No, that's like going against. I can go against that. No, that's
I can
testify. Attest. Yes. Good. Thank you for the assistance here.
Yeah. So yeah, I got into my first serious relationship, and bro, it was like literally like everything I ever wanted. I was like, oh, this is great.
Yeah.
Oh my god, I felt so good. Everything is so perfect. Blah blah blah.
Yeah.
You know, a few months go by. You know, she starts like, you know, bringing up some things like, oh, like I see you're liking other girls' posts on Twitter and blah blah blah, and I'm like, is that not allowed? Like, what do you mean? Like, I didn't know that was an off limit thing once you're in a relationship. Like,
sorry.
And like I wasn't like literally like liking posts of girls or like naked or anything.
Hot, like,
I was just liking other people's tweets
like,
that were funny.
People
like,
that go to school
that are
like,
women, right? Like, what, can women not be funny and I can't find them funny? Like, fuck, you know. So it's like, damn, that's crazy. And so I was like, okay, like that's a little worrisome, but I'm really happy, so I'm just gonna keep going. You know? And then a few more months go by. We're like 6 months into it, and like, you know, this huge thing comes up where like I text my ex from like months back or like a year before I dated a year before, who like, you know, I was still kind of friends with, and I was just asking how she was, seeing, you know, what's up. Yeah. And she found that out somehow, like on my phone, and she flipped shit. And like that was one of the first times where I was like, oh, she got angry. Like, like, wow, I didn't know she could get that angry. Like, wowee. And like,
ooh, new side that I have not really seen.
And again, you get comfortable with someone, you start to like, you know, show sides of yourself. You start to get some different reflections from that mirror, you know, and a lot of these insecurities were coming out for her. And I had insecurities too at the time. Don't get me wrong, and those came out in different ways. But like, it's how are you going to handle that, and how deep do they go, right? Because there's levels to insecurities, right? And they will make you feel a corresponding amount of anger, sadness, grief, whatever, based on how traumatic that or what that insecurity is linked to traumatically. You know what I mean? So like, maybe for her, there were a lot of things that, you know, were just really tough to deal with, and all that energy came up, and she just blah, you know, and I can't hate her for that.
Right.
You know, you can't hate anyone for that.
Right.
But how do you be with someone like that? You can't.
It's very difficult.
You absolutely can't. And so eventually this relationship went on for 2 years. There was a lot of manipulation, a ton of gaslighting, a ton of, Tyler knows all about it, right? But it's like, it was just very extremely toxic. There was some physical abuse. There was some verbal abuse, threatening to break up, you know, all that jazz. And
all the good stuff.
I stayed in it for way longer than I should have.
Yeah.
Way longer.
And let's talk about why.
Yeah, I think that's
I
interesting.
can get into why, like, I stayed in a toxic relationship
I know why,
for
absolutely.
too long as well. And
I
I think that's an important thing to talk about too, because like, we can say all this and then just move past it, but it's like the why. Like,
because why,
we understand why, because we've like reflected on it and thought about it and been like, this is it, like fucking.
And knowing the why makes you know going forward how, like, you know that you're not going to get into that situation.
Yeah, you know what to look out for.
Right.
You know, like, what to catch at the times. Like, the flags that you were saying about, you know, like, you know, she was getting mad at me because I liked a girl's tweet, and then, you know, I, like, messaged an ex from, like, a year ago to just see how she's doing because I still cared about her as a person.
Yeah,
and, you know, you see flags like that, and it's like, oh, you look past them, because in the moment you're like, oh, this is just like you know, this is because
everything was going well up to that
I'm gonna
point,
make this work.
Know?
Like anyway, like, you know, yeah, these could be flags, but you look past them. But it's like, like after you have some time to look back at it all and be like, oh shit, like, those flags were warning signs. Those flags were like, you know, fucking waving viciously in the air at me, and I was like,
well, and it's also like, I think I had this idea instilled in me where it's like, oh, like, you should just stick it out. Like, you should just accept someone.
Don't give up.
Don't give up, or else, right?
Right.
Like, because if you do, then what do you look like? You know, at the first sign of someone doing something shitty, like, you just leave. Like, oh, that looks bad, right? Like, and that was kind of instilled in me by, I think, again, my perception of my parents' relationship, and the way I viewed other relationships in my life. So, I wanted to make it work because, like, I think the big reason why was, like, I was so happy with, like, the happy moments in that relationship that I held onto those more tightly than anything. And I was like, oh, if we can be happy like that,
can get back to this
we
point,
can get back, or we can make that happen more, then it'll be okay.
Dude, it's like, you know, just for like a good example, it's like, you know how with everything that's going on with the pandemic, everything that was going on with Black Lives Matters, like everything that was going on, like all of 2020, the example of like how some people are like, oh, like, you know, we can soon get back to the way that we were, and other people are like, why would we get back to like that instead
the thing
of like
that caused that
progressing? Like, let's progress, let's move past where we were in a better direction, right?
That's what I mean. And like, that's adaptation, right? That's moving forward, not backwards, right? And that works in every area of life, right? So if you try and recreate the past, you will fail every time, right? If you try and create the exact scenarios that created the past, they don't exist anymore.
That moment's already gone.
It's gone. It's dead. You're dead.
Yeah.
You're dead. The past version of yourself is dead.
Right.
And so are they.
Yeah.
So when you're in a relationship, every single moment that passes, you have to make peace with it as soon as it passes, right? And if you try and idealize any time period where you were happy with someone and try and, you know, force it to be like that again, doesn't work.
Right.
Does not work. And that happened in my first relationship, and I held on to it for a long time, tried to fix her, tried to make her, you know, treat me the way I know I deserve to be treated. Yeah. But you can't, because those problems that were causing that had nothing to do with me in our relationship. It had to do with her personal insecurities and problems that she needed to work through on her own.
She was, you know, trying to deal with, but instead was overflowing into the relationship at that point.
Right. And again, it's very easy to do that. It happens, right? But it's not fair to me or anyone that's in a toxic situation like that.
Right.
So yeah, eventually you get sick enough of it, and that's what happened to me. I got sick of being treated like absolute dog shit, and I ended it, you know?
Yeah.
And, you know, but some people will literally convince themselves that if I hold on long enough, eventually it'll change.
Yeah, if I can just hang in there.
Yes.
If I can hang in there, if I can rough out this storm, things will.
People will get married in
back.
situations like that too.
Yeah, dude, how fucked is that?
Oh, if I get married or have a kid, maybe it'll get better.
Yeah,
That's
like
insane.
like oh, maybe if I put a ring on her finger,
Bro.
she'll actually love me again.
That's
And
wild.
It's like, yeah, it's like how do you convince yourself of that?
It's like going all in.
right.
Like you're just like, oh, like
Yeah, it's
I've
like
already
you got
wasted.
It's like you got a 7-2 in poker, right? Anyone who plays poker knows it's like one of the fucking shittiest hands you can get. It's like getting a 7-2 with poker. You got nothing on the fucking board, and you're like, fuck it, I'm going all in.
I'm going
Like,
all in anyways.
It's like,
baby.
why? Like your odds are so slim. Like, what's the fucking point?
Because it's sunk cost fallacy. You know, it's you put so much into something and someone in a relationship, you feel like, oh, I can't go back now. I can't stop now, or else I will. I'll feel like I wasted my time or I wasted my energy, which you didn't.
Right.
At the times that you were happy in that relationship, you can be happy about those times.
Yeah.
Right. At the time,
Look at it with joy. Look
Right.
at it with like, yeah, that was a
grateful,
good time. Yeah, like
And-
acknowledge those moments.
And within even every toxic relationship, there are those moments, right? You know, and even with the sad, awful, angry moments, you can look back at those and be like, you know what? I'm grateful for those moments because I learned from that.
yeah.
And those instilled in me a sense of, you know, being careful, right? Being careful in the future so that I know when, if this happens again, I'm not going to put up with it, right? So you have to be grateful for the good and the bad in those situations. But for me, I was in that 2-year relationship from when I was 17 years old till when I was 19, like a sophomore in college, just starting X-ray school. And then I ended that relationship, and 2 months later, I was in another relationship.
Right.
And I'm not one to like think too much about time being like a, you know, you need to be single for this long in order to
Like
heal.
we were
Like,
saying before, you know, the cliche time heals all. Like, you know,
No.
there's no time stamp.
it's the
on, like,
quality
when-
over quantity, man. How do
Yeah.
you spend that time?
Yeah,
right?
definitely.
And when I look back at those 2 months between being in my first serious relationship and my second, I don't really think I mean, I was trying to, you know, I hadn't started therapy yet maybe, but like I was somewhat aware of it, and I was like, oh, like, but my main thing that I was thinking in between those times from what I remember was like, oh, I was interested in someone else, and it seemed like it would be way better. Like she seemed different, right?
Yeah, it seems like a better opportunity.
It was like a throw in the opposite direction, right? Like, oh, she seemed way more chill and laid back, and like I can, you know, trust that, right?
Yeah.
She was also older, so like I was like, oh, she's
You're like,
more
oh,
mature.
more mature, has a better understanding of
Yeah,
stuff.
boy, was I wrong to some extent, right? It's very interesting when it comes to age too. I think when you're in your 20s, like I was
Age is but a number.
past a certain point, I believe, and we're not talking about being under 18. That's fucked up and illegal, right? We're not consent.
Oh
is
yeah,
very
well,
important.
fucking yeah, definitely. I was not saying that in any way.
Well,
shape,
no,
or
I mean
form.
that's
no, but yeah, like, like I'm saying, like in terms of like maturity, right? Like
Yeah.
just because you're 25 and living on your own doesn't mean that you're fucking
No.
mature. Like,
well, you can look mature on paper, right?
Yeah.
Because people judge maturity based on very arbitrary, like goofy ass things, like I have a job and a 401k
yeah, like oh,
and insurance.
I'm able to
Fuck
know
outta here.
maintain a career or
Doesn't
something.
mean
It's
jack
like,
shit.
Yeah, but like yeah,
Some of the most immature people I've met in my life have been people who are, you know, family men or like
put
people
together,
put
like,
together
yeah.
on the outside,
Yeah.
right? They've been the most emotionally immature
Picture
and
perfect,
mentally
yeah.
immature. You know, that's how you measure maturity, right? Is
Mm-hmm.
how you look at life, are you know how you deal with the suffering, right? How you go about your experience,
how
right?
how you treat other people,
How you treat other
how you
people.
treat yourself.
Absolutely.
You know, all the components of like what like mature actually means, right?
There's
Like,
so many.
it's not just like job and
all that.
career.
I would say that
and
stuff is
money.
almost completely irrelevant.
Yeah.
A homeless person could be more mature than
Oh yeah, dude.
a fucking fully blown
Yeah.
like businessman who has all the family,
Mm-hmm.
house, blah blah blah. Seriously. But anyways, when it comes to relationships though, like, you know, I was naive. I was like 19 looking at this 22-year-old girl and I was like, oh yeah, like she seems like she'd be more mature. Totally. And you know, ended up getting into a relationship with her pretty quickly after my last one. And at the time I was like, I was even telling myself too, like, oh yeah, I'm just gonna be friends with her. Like I'm just gonna wait, you know, like I'm gonna take time.
Take it slow.
And it didn't.
No,
Didn't happen. Because when you have a connection with someone and you're into someone romantically and you hang out with them a lot, what do you think's gonna happen?
It's hard to fucking just like fight that and be like, oh yeah, no, I'm gonna
can't.
stick to my original plan
You
of
can't.
just being friends.
You either have boundaries and separations, or you fucking go all in, you know, and you decide to be with someone, right? Or you could try and like half-ass like, oh, we should be friends with benefits, or like we could just like be friends who like make out every once in a while. Like, what the fuck is
it's
that?
like friends don't really do
Friends,
that.
I don't do that with
necessarily.
you, man. Like, what
Yeah.
the fuck? Like,
Yeah.
it's just like, it makes no fucking sense. But
Yeah.
that's a whole nother thing. But yeah, I got into that relationship, and that relationship was almost the dead opposite. It was like less clinging and more aversion, right? So that was a pretty toxic relationship as well, but it was toxic in the sense where it was very one-sided. She was very negligent, very like not involved in the relationship for a lot of it, and like I tried so hard to like get her involved and like make her do certain things, and again trying to change someone, right, to fit that mold of what you know you need. And I learned a lot from my last relationship, don't get me wrong, but I was still making similar mistakes in that area, right? So but anyways, even if I wasn't able to change her, and you can't do that, right? If the only change that can come if like the person realizes what they're doing to the other person and wants to change
if they
themselves.
want to change,
Right,
Yeah, if
and
they
takes the steps.
themselves want to take the steps
Yeah.
to change, like
Yeah, and like that's hard to do, man. Like even if you're not in a relationship, but it's even harder. I think it seems harder when you're in a relationship because you're forced to, right? Like because you know that your actions affect someone very directly, you know? So you're forced to confront that, and some people don't want to. If you don't confront it outside of a relationship, you surely won't in a relationship.
no, fuck
Right?
no. Yeah.
Probably not, you know, but it's, it took a long time to realize like, damn, I can't do shit. You know, I was in that relationship. Eventually I dated her for a year and a half, and eventually I was just like, well, I'm hopeless. I
Yeah.
felt completely hopeless, you know? And again, that relationship probably went on a little bit longer than it should have too, because like I spent the last 4 or 5 months, even like maybe even a half year in that relationship, just like,
Yeah.
just, oh my God, like numb.
Yeah.
Just completely numb to
Yeah.
everything, and that's a shitty feeling for sure when you're with someone, because when you're with someone you want to feel more, right?
Right.
You're like, I want,
You don't want to feel less like
and
being with someone
and I
else.
did, bro.
Yeah.
I did, man. It was degrading as fuck, There were a lot of verbal abuse, a lot of yelling, a lot of screaming, and another thing too is like, I don't like feeling influenced by another person's actions, especially when I'm in a relationship with them, right? Like I don't want to feel like they are changing me for the worse, right? Obviously,
Yeah.
the whole idea is to change each other for the better, but like when you spend enough time around someone who is angry and depressed and just all this shit,
Starts
it
to,
rubs
like,
off
rub
on you.
off,
It
yeah.
absolutely does, man. And like it's not necessarily their fault. They're not trying to rub off on you, right? They are the way they are, and if they're not dealing with it, that's going to
I
continue.
mean, that's just what happens with like friendships, relationships,
Yeah.
whatever. Like, you
It could
spend
be
enough
anything,
time
yeah.
around someone, and you start to pick up qualities that they have,
Yeah.
whether it's good or bad.
Exactly.
Know,
So it's hard, man.
depends on what the relationship is feeding you, so to say.
Yeah, the feeding is a really good way to put it, right?
Yeah.
Like what do you
Are you
know,
getting positive?
What are you putting
energy?
in? What are you getting
yeah,
out?
Yeah, exactly. Like yes.
Because if you're putting in all this effort, you're putting in all this love, affection, whatever, and
you're
felt,
getting out horseshit.
and like that's what I felt like I was pretty solid. Like
Mm-hmm.
not that I didn't make any mistakes, right? Like I didn't go about everything perfectly, not
Mm-hmm.
even close, and it's not possible to do that. But I felt like I was a pretty solid boyfriend, and I tried very hard to make it work. Extremely, I tried every little thing from every different angle, and it still didn't work, right? So if you put in everything that you possibly can, you attack everything with every weapon that you have, and it still doesn't work, then you're fucked.
Yeah,
And
what
you
can you
have
do?
to end the relationship. That's how it ended.
Yeah.
It's just like, okay, that's it.
Yeah, it's like
You know?
you can. I want to tie it into like a quote that like my baseball coach from like 7th grade taught me is like,
Oh
you
yeah,
know,
I love that quote.
Yeah, it's actually a great quote. Like, you can always control your effort, but you can't always control the outcome.
Absolutely.
Like you can do everything you want
You can do
to
everything
try to
right.
make a relationship
Yeah.
work. You can technically do everything right, but
Mm-hmm.
at the end of the day, it still just might not work out.
Exactly, and people can't accept that. And
Yeah.
that's where so much of the fear comes in before
Mm-hmm.
being in a relationship. It's like, oh, like I've been with so many people who I thought I loved so much, and I thought we were gonna get married and be together forever, but then we just didn't.
Yeah, it just fizzled
And
out.
so like that means that it will never work with anyone because it didn't work with this
yeah,
person.
you start generalizing.
You start being jaded. Like you're
Yeah.
just so jaded.
Jaded's a great word for that.
Yeah,
yes.
you're just so like dejected and
Yeah.
just like And that's something you need to work with, right? Because is that really a fair view to have just because of your experience in the past? You dated one person out of almost 8 billion people, right? And you're telling me that there's no way it can work. Oh my God.
Yeah.
You know, and don't get me wrong. Statistically, like, marriages are failing a lot more than they ever have.
Isn't it like, aren't divorce rates literally at half right now?
It's close to that. Yep.
That's bonkers.
Yeah. I did a paper on that. It was fuck, man. Oh my God. And so I get it to some extent, especially if you grew up in different circumstances where you never saw real love, and never, experienced that from your parents maybe. And that's another thing too. It's like romantic love has a lot to do with just that pure unconditional love that you should experience at some point. That's not even associated with romance necessarily. Like, you can feel that from a parent, a friend, a teacher, anyone, right?
Yeah.
But if you didn't, or you haven't felt much of it, then you don't know it, right? And you also don't realize that it's within you, right? No matter how much shit you've been through, it's still there. Right?
Yeah.
So if you're not able to access that when you're in a relationship, then where's the love then?
Yeah.
Where the love is, the only love that that exists is like this pushing and pulling, right? It's like this highs and lows, these extremes. Like, it's like a bipolar mess, man. Like, we have these moments of, great, I feel awesome, I love you so much, and these moments of, I hate you, you make me so sad,
like,
you don't give me what I need.
Like,
and that's not love.
No.
That's not love. I think we said this last time, love has no opposites, right? Love is just completely neutral. It has nothing. There's no label to it, right?
Yeah.
It's just completely non-judgmental.
Yeah.
You know? So, and that's hard to find though. I haven't found that in a romantic relationship.
No, like
none of my past relationships.
No,
none of them.
Like, and that's not to say that I haven't like loved like past like partners.
No,
so
that's not to say that.
like,
I think my perception of what that meant to me
of what it really meant. You know,
I don't think I loved my past partners in the way that I experience love now, right? But I did at the time, and that doesn't take away from it. You know.
Yeah.
Because you feel that you feel that when you pull up the feeling of love that you have for anyone in your life right now, you can feel that it has a certain tone to it, right?
Literally just think of your dog,
literally,
right? And just look at that feeling.
You can create that right now if you want to. And so you know what love feels like to some extent, right? And when you feel that with a human, right, and it's also conjoined with some romantic feelings of being attracted to them and liking their personality and them making you laugh and all those other things, when you combine all those and make it into a smoothie, you're like, okay, like, yeah, I want to drink this shit, you know, like, sign me up,
right? Fucking pour that shit.
But I don't know, man, like, you can't be too quick to drink it, right? Like, I think you got to be very careful about what ingredients you're adding.
No, yeah, and I think for maybe me to get a little into my
I was just about to say
backstory, like, I think that was kind of one of my things, right? Like, you start developing feelings and you're like, well, what else am I supposed to do with these besides pursue a relationship?
You're like,
right?
well, fuck, I gotta do something.
Yeah,
you know,
like
shit.
You know, like my first serious relationship, you know, I had like stupid fucking relationships in high school and shit that lasted like a couple months. Like, I don't like count those, so to say, when I'm thinking of like actual relationships. Right. You know, still learn something from them, and
they're still valuable.
I'm able to look back at them and see. But you know, it was like stupid shit that lasted a couple months that didn't matter. But like my first like real relationship, I think, like, you know, I hung out with the girl. Like, damn, she's pretty cool. Things started progressing from there on, and it's like, you know, yeah, like, cool, I'll date you. You know, you don't really like think twice about it, really. You're just like, yeah, this kind of feels right now. Let's dive into it, right? Let alone like my dumbass, like in the situation itself, like, you know, my relationship with this girl almost started in like a love triangle. Because there was another like love interest for her at the time that she was trying to work with, right? And it was like a weird thing because I was just like, yeah, like, you know,
like, this is cool.
Like, like,
it's kind of fun.
Like, yeah. Every time I talk about it, I just laugh at it because I'm
it's
like,
hilarious,
boy, you're silly. Like, fucking,
you were silly.
Yeah, you like. Yeah. Like, you know, it goes back to what I was saying about, like, looking at the flags and just kind of ignoring them and being like, whatever, you know, like, I'll take care of the flag later, whatever. But, like, yeah, like, I kind of just hopped into it, and was like, yeah, let's fucking make a relationship happen. And you know, eventually I beat out the other third in the love triangle. Such a great feeling.
Wow.
Right?
Amazing, you won.
But like, yeah, was that the best for me? No. Long term, like, relationship like that had a lot of issues. There was a lot of stuff that I overlooked, and like a lot of things that I was trying to you know, like Joey was saying with his, you know, just kind of accept and like keep moving forward with. You know, I was cheated on, you know, probably in the double digits.
It's pretty good.
You know, and it's like I was looking at those as like little mistakes that she would make, right? I'm like, oh, like, cheated on me, you know. Not gonna get into her whole backstory, but she was dealing with some stuff too, and so
Right.
me,
Same with my girlfriends.
yeah,
too,
me
you know?
being trying to be like an empathetic and like understanding person, I'm like, you know, that's not her. Like these actions don't represent her.
And that's a very human, great, perfect way to look at it,
Mm-hmm.
right? And that's, you know, that's great that you were looking at it that way, but
It's like you're ignoring the flags that are
Right.
waving in your face.
And
saying,
unfortunately-
like, yo, like,
you may have that perception of her, but she surely did not have that perception of herself, you know?
yeah, I'm
And that's
sure she
all that-
wasn't thinking
That's
like,
what really matters, right?
Mhm.
Is having that perception of yourself. But
yeah. So yeah, you know, I kept just trying to convince myself like this isn't her. You know, once she works through her stuff, she'll be able to like love me again without cheating on me or some shit,
It's
right?
beautiful,
Like
really.
like whatever fucked up lie you're telling yourself,
Yep.
right? So I mean, like, you know, that lasted for like 8 months and came to an end, and then kind of like Joey's situation too, right? Like a couple months later, bam, new relationship
the
again.
2-month special.
You know, hung out with a girl, really cool. I'm like, fuck yeah, this is dope. You know, like I got out of a toxic relationship and I'm feeling on top of the world. I'm feeling light.
Same.
I'm feeling fluffy.
That's how I
I'm
was
like,
feeling too.
I'm
yeah.
like, let me get back in the game. You
You're
know,
like-
who else is out there? Like this
Yeah.
fucking whatever. So then you
Yeah.
come across someone, and in my case, I meet this girl, really cool. We get along really well, and things are great. You know, things are going well for a bit, and you know, then I graduate high school. I graduated at that time, I think, or was like done already. And then she was in her senior year, and she was about graduating and then like going away to school, and she wanted to not be together when she was at school, but be together when she was home. And you know, I wasn't about that because I was thinking of like my last
would be?
relationship. I'm like, no, that won't work, whatever, like that's not gonna work for me. And so then we decided to date. And again, like, it's kind of like looking at a flag like that and like kind of being
That's
like,
a big flag.
okay, like she was kind of just like trying to end the relationship,
Uh-huh.
right? And I was like, no, like we're gonna be together still, like,
That's
you know, like you know, I'm like fighting for it at that point, right?
Yeah.
And you know, it happened again at another point, like I think like a year later, right? Like at school, long distance, which is difficult. But you know, same kind of thing, just kind of struggling to like kind of keep the relationship afloat. And you know, it felt like I was like fighting for it when she was trying to like put an end to it. Eventually continued the relationship, and then it ended like 2 years later, right? And by the end of the relationship, you know, it kind of felt like, you know, I was trying to make the relationship work. I was trying to put the energy and effort into it, and like it felt like I was alone in the relationship, and I couldn't
Yeah.
figure out why. I couldn't figure out what it was. And you know, with long distance, there's other insecurities I was dealing with like,
Oh yeah.
you know, like getting cheated on multiple times in my past. I'm worried about her being at another school, going
Yeah.
out on weekends. I'm worried about, you know, not receiving messages from her within like a timely fashion on weekends. You know, it's
Yeah.
like whatever worst thought your brain can take you to. So it's like, you know, there was definitely parts on my end that I was failing to see like in the relationship that could have like driven us apart in ways.
Right, but did that really make the difference? Right.
I mean, maybe for her in that case, yeah. But like, you know, I was stuck in this stage of like not understanding why I felt so alone in my relationship,
Right.
right? And like maybe
Because
it
you
affected
were.
that. Yeah, and I was 100%. And you know, and then eventually the relationship ended, and like even after the fucking relationship ended, you know, I'm like, yo, like what can we do to make this work? Like what can like you
Still
know,
caught up in
I
it,
don't
yeah.
want this to be over. Still caught up in it, and then like, you know, here I am now. two, 3 even. Like, I don't even fucking know. And it's like, you know, I have a whole different perspective on it, right? Like, you know, at the time that I was in the relationship, at the time the relationship was ending, you know, I was kind of just like in a pit of like sorrow, right? Like, like basking in it, as I was saying last week, like just basking in this pit of sorrow, like fucking not knowing what to do, feeling empty because the person I was with for so long is now like not in my life and whatever. And, you know, it's this whole thing. But I look at it now and I'm able to like look at like the positive moments that I got out of the relationship, and I'm able to take things from that and be like, yeah, like there's definitely parts from that like I enjoyed, and there's definitely parts that I can like not pinpoint, but I can like look at and be like, yeah, like I would like it to be like this in my next relationship. I would like to have like that kind of relationship. I would like to have that kind of like banter or whatever, that kind of stuff that I enjoyed from it, and like other things like, you know, it's like a cafeteria,
you pick
right?
and choose,
you like pick and choose what you like
the thing
are
that's
thinking about. But
the one thing I will say about that is that I've noticed that in any new like relationship, when I'm talking to someone new or anything like that, it's like you have to completely accept that this relationship with this unique human being is going to be completely different than anything you've ever experienced.
Oh my God, that's
know?
like one of the most important things, because if you're still holding on to like a past relationship and you're thinking, man, like I hope that this next one I get into can feel like that one. It's the same thing as we were talking about before. Yeah, it's like clinging. It's like holding on to the past relationship, the good times of the past relationship, thinking that like, oh, I wish I could have you know, things like that again. But it's like you're gonna meet someone and have totally different good new experiences that aren't the same as that.
And sometimes you take the projections from those negative experiences in your past and you put them onto someone else and be like, oh, like this is what happened and I hope someone can be different, and like you better be different, right? Like it's like that pressure it creates is like kind of ridiculous. Yeah. Like I remember in the past few months or 4 or 5 months, like I was hanging out with a girl who was like, she literally said like, oh, like we were cuddling and she was like, wow, like I didn't think I would be, you know, okay with this because of my ex and blah blah blah. And I'm like, we're just cuddling, like this is the first time we're hanging out. I'm like, what do you mean?
We're just kind of like,
and that wasn't the only thing she said. As you know, right? Like it was just a bombardment of expectations and pressure of just like we're just hanging out the first time. You don't even know me. I don't even know you. Yeah. Right? Like I'm not gonna be your knight in shining armor. Like, right. I don't want to be. Right. You know, I don't even know if I want to be yet. Yeah. You know,
it's like we're kind of just getting a feel for each other.
It's almost dehumanizing to put that much expectation on someone else. You know, like, oh, like I've been through so much shit and blah blah blah, so now you have to be better. Or else.
Well, it's like kind of like trying to make someone fit the mold that you think. Bro, I think that goes into the idea of like a hopeless romantic kind of thing. It is. Yeah. And that's something again that like we got stuck in. Like, I mean, like I can like reference a high school relationship that I consider like a dumb one, right? You know, one that doesn't really like count. I can reference one on where, you know, there was points where she's like telling me like, I'm not gonna be good for you anymore, like I'm just gonna hurt you, and I'm like, that's okay, please like hurt me. Please hurt me, like as long as I'm with you, like, you know, everything's okay. Because like at that time, like she fit the criteria of like who I wanted to be with at that time.
It could have been anyone.
It's
just being with someone. Right? And someone you were attracted to and had all these fantasies about. Yeah. Could have been anyone.
That's like one of those like cringe moments. Literally super last cringe. Week we mentioned that, like looking back at text, there was fucking text like from that shit, and I was like, wow, like what the fuck? Like
you are literally like, it's almost like you're not even like aware of anything that you're doing at that point. Yeah. Like you're just so lost in the sauce, man. Yeah. Like, and it's dangerous. Like people can get caught up in that their whole lives. Oh yeah. You know? Like,
well, I mean, that's how you end up in like a marriage where you're like, oh, if I just put a ring on it, she'll love me more, right?
Right. And that never fucking works.
No,
never fucking works.
It's not how it goes.
God, I've heard so many awful stories about that. But, anyways, continue the rest of your experience.
I mean, I like relationship wise, I think that was like the main like gist of it. Like it was kind of just like romanticizing things and like, you know, feeling the need to, like Joey was saying before, like trying to, you know, work through it and keep pushing through it because it just felt like the thing to do. But like, you know,
it's based on nothing.
Yeah.
Right? Because if you're basing it on a feeling, what is a feeling, right? Feeling's just a fucking feeling.
Right.
It doesn't mean anything. The
Right.
only meaning it has is the meaning you give to it, right?
Right.
So you're really basing it off jack shit.
Yeah.
Are those feelings you? Are those feelings special? No.
Right. And on top of it, like if there's so many indicators telling you it's not, it's not working. This isn't working out for you.
Dude, yeah.
You're not feeling happy.
Yeah.
Like Joey said, like his relationship went on too long. My last one and the one before that both went on too long. Like there were multiple times where like I like thinking to myself, like I maybe should get myself out of this, and I would convince myself no, because why would I just give up? Right. Like
you convince yourself and other people.
Right. Yeah.
You tell yourself the lie, and then you create the lie for other people.
Right. You try to tell other people to back up, your feeling of like
you need to validate.
Yeah,
what
you're looking for validation,
Yeah.
right? Like your parents are like, Tyler, maybe that's not working out, and I'm like, no, but like,
you don't get
like,
it.
I really love her. I can make this work out. Like you don't understand it. Like,
and they don't, but they also do to some extent because they've been through that shit.
they can see it from a third party standpoint and be like,
objective.
wow, like you don't seem very happy at all.
Right.
But it's like,
you seem miserable.
yeah.
Right.
But like after my last relationship ended and I spent some time and reflecting on everything, I was like thinking back and I was like, damn, like when was the last time I was even like single for like an extended period of time?
Bro,
like,
this is the longest I've been single,
talking to someone for an extended period of time. Like
yeah.
Like it's crazy. Like now like just strictly single, it's been like 2-3 years now. I haven't been in another relationship since then. And it's like a whole different experience because now I'm starting to understand what it means to like, prioritize yourself. I understand what it means to like take care of yourself and like put yourself first.
That's powerful, man.
Yeah, like it's a really interesting thing because you spend so much time like ruminating on relationships and ruminating on the thought of being with someone and ruminating on this and ruminating on that.
The answers don't lie there.
Right.
The answers lie figuring your shit out.
Like figuring your own self out.
Right, and that's what I would advise a lot of people to do is like look at it not as like two people trying to come together to complete each other or like try and, make each other whole. It's two whole people coming together and sharing that wholeness.
Complementing.
Right.
Complementing each other.
Absolutely. And you share that, right? And it's not being whole does not mean being perfect.
No.
Being whole just means accepting everything that you are, right? And acknowledging it.
Being who you are,
Right.
just being.
Being.
I would think that classifies as like you being a whole person. Just be yourself.
Right,
like,
and to say that if you don't think you're whole, what are you lacking then? Tell me.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Anything that you think you're lacking, you're not lacking. Right?
Because it's all there.
Right. Because if you think you're lacking something that's like, oh, I don't have enough money. Oh, I'm not fit enough. Oh, I'm not. That's all external.
Yeah.
It's all external.
That stuff, yeah, you're not like lacking that.
You're not lacking, you know? Like obviously you can make decisions that would, maybe
like benefit
you, but like it's still not going to fix that feeling of lacking,
No.
right? But yeah, man, when it comes to relationships, I think my biggest thing now, like the way I look at relationships going forward is like I don't want to go into it feeling like, I want the priority to be on two individuals prioritizing themselves while still being like connected with each other, right? You can still be connected, you can still enjoy life together, you can still, be in a relationship and experience life together to some extent, but there has to be almost a separation of like, all this shit, right? The shit's gonna come up, right? It's gonna come up, but like how much of that do you attribute to the other person and how much of that are you aware of that is your own thing to deal with, right? So having that separation, that understanding that you are two distinct, different, unique people that are coming together with your own experiences and all this shit, and whatever you bring along, you have a responsibility to deal with it within your own realm of existence, right? And not put that on the other person, not make the other person deal with that, right?
Not saying that you can't ask for help.
Oh, you
not
should.
saying that you can't, like talk about shit, right? Because that's like the biggest part of it. When two people are coming together to try to make a relationship work as whole individuals, if you want to say it like that, right? Like there's of course going to be communication on a level like that. Like you got to talk through shit together. Like just because you might still be dealing with something with your ex that you're trying to like work through, like doesn't mean you can't bring it up to the person that you're with at the time.
You absolutely should. The stigma of not being able to talk about exes because like that doesn't mean you're over them, or like it doesn't mean that you've dealt with it. Talking about it is dealing with it, right?
You're in the action of it, like you know, and when you shun someone, or like, oh, like why the fuck are you talking about your ex? Like you're with me. It's like because the dude or the girl is like trying to fucking work through some shit, like and like it's up to you then at that point if they're asking for help to like be just an ear to listen, like.
And you're talking about that experience because you're in a new relationship and you need them to understand why you think the way you do. Because of that.
I think it's so important to talk about like past relationships when you're getting in another relationship, because you then get an understanding of where this person's coming from, like what relationships have shaped their view, how, like, you know, shit like that, like, you know.
I will say though, I feel, for me personally, I feel quite distant from my relationships now, in the sense that like my views and stuff have been molded more by my personal experience rather than those experiences.
I would agree as well.
Which I think is kind of the goal, or at least maybe it should be, right? Because if you're coming into it with your own personal understandings, which I guess you could kind of...
It's like adaptations. Like you can. It's like taking the things from the relationships and adapting them, you know?
Yeah, and evolving from those, right? So it's all combined, I think, actually. It's the personal and the relationship stuff. Yeah. I'm not saying, like, it's not like a direct link anymore, right? It's more so like, I had that experience, and then I worked through my stuff personally, and then now I think this way. This
is the conclusion I've come to. Yeah.
So it's like a whole ass process. Years and years. And even stuff before I was in relationships. Even stuff with my parents, even stuff with friends and family, all that shit. It all contributes to it. So it can feel like a lot for people. I get that. Like, it's like a lot to like unravel, and it's a lot to open up about. But what other choice do you have? Yeah. What other choice do you have? Not open up? And what kind of relationship would that be? A closed off, just like two people that are not even connected? What are you connecting on? Yeah. You're not connecting on anything human, that's for sure, because you're not open.
Connecting on the alcohol you're drinking together,
or
at
sex,
the bar,
or whatever.
The sex that you're having. Like,
and that's...
it's great and all, but like, I mean, fucking, you know, thinking of like a long lasting, like, you know, fucking loving, proper relationship, to each their own, you know, fucking, I'm not here judging, I'm not here saying what's the perfect relationship and shit, but like, you know,
to each their own, absolutely.
Like, me personally, I want to connect on a deeper level, right?
Absolutely.
Like, tell me about everything that's been fucked up in your life. Let me understand you. Like,
and it's not even just the fucked up stuff. Tell me about tell me about the things that make you happy. Tell me about the things that motivate you.
But like, you know, in terms of like, you know, the deeper, not necessarily always shared stuff, you know, like I want to know that stuff. Like, let me know who you are. Like,
same. Yeah. And that's a requirement.
Yeah, it has to be, because like if you're not telling me anything about you,
I can't do anything.
You know,
with it.
like you know, like when you're FaceTiming that girl and she's telling you about her friends and shit, and you don't even know a damn thing about her. It's like what. It's like, like sure, yeah. Tell me about your friends, but like, I don't know a single fucking thing about you.
You can't give people experience without the context. You can't give people an idea without the source. You know, an idea has to come from something, right? Yeah. I want to get down to the nitty gritty, like, and to be honest, I think we're different kinds. We're different in the sense that we are very open. We're very like willing to talk about this stuff, and I get some people aren't. But at the same time, like, there are billions of people out there. I find it very hard to think that there aren't girls and guys just like us that would want to be in a relationship and be that open off the bat, you know? Because if you're that open off the bat, imagine how deep you can go over years and years and years and years of change. Right. And that makes me excited, truly. Absolutely. To be in a relationship. God. I am geeked as fuck to be in my next relationship. Yeah. And that's why it's like, okay, you could either be excited or you could be anxious. It's two sides of the same coin.
Yes, and we've talked about this before.
It's two sides of the same coin. It's a choice, though. Like, of course, you can be anxious.
How do you look at it?
Oh, God, like, I have to open up. I have to do all this. I have to tell them this and this and that. Okay, and what? What's going to happen if you do? Yeah. What's the worst thing that could happen?
How do you make friends?
Right.
Like actual friends.
Right. How do you have to have something to connect on. The only thing that you can connect on are the parts of you that are human, your experiences, the way you've processed those experiences, the feelings that you have, the emotions that you've experienced, all that stuff, right? Yeah. You have to be open about that, or else you're never going to get anywhere.
Tell me about your goddamn life. Right. Like, not you know, your weekend drinking.
And that's,
your, you know.
Right. people get very, I think in long-term relationships, and this has happened to me too, like you get very comfortable. You get very like, okay, like we've talked about a lot of stuff, like, okay, whatever. But you're not updating what you're talking about. You're not updating. How do you feel now? Like, what makes you feel?
It's like you talk about a topic and it's like, oh, that's off the list.
It's not a check
Never
mark,
has
man.
To come up again. Like
Topics can be revisited over and over and over again because your opinion, your
constantly
feelings,
changing.
yeah, everything changes about those as you change, right, as a person. And I think the change can be very subtle, but it's very noticeable when you become aware of it, and it happens very quickly, quicker than you realize, you know. And so when you're in a relationship too, that change is expedited. I think it's a lot faster. The potential for change is much higher when you're in a relationship because you're constantly bouncing off the other person, and we're getting reflections of what you are. And if you don't like what you're seeing in that reflection, you can change it, right? And then having that support from the other person can make that change easier, right? And if you're just trying to do that for each other, imagine how beautiful that would be, right? Like that's a beautiful thing to think about.
Working together in harmony.
But for your own sake.
Yeah. For both of your own individual sakes.
Right.
And for each other.
That's the initial, the primary thing is for yourself, and that's good. That's a selfish thing. And then the secondary thing is, it's enhancing each other, your relationship.
I mean, that's kind of like what we were talking about last week, too. Like,
Yeah.
I like always bringing stuff back and, like, looping around.
Oh, we're going to loop around and round and round.
You know, like about how, you know, sometimes when you're doing work on yourself and you're, you know, trying to be more positive and work on your own mental health and whatever, you kind of act as like, you know, like so to say light for other people who aren't with that.
Oh, absolutely.
So like, you know, it's good when you're like, when two people are on the same page doing that in a relationship.
Yes.
And they can work together. Like Joey and I are not in a relationship. We are not romantically involved, but we are very good friends. And for so long, like, we have been doing that. Like, we've been working as individuals to better ourselves, but at the same time bettering each other.
Absolutely. And that's at the core of being human. Those relationships, the difference between that and a romantic relationship, there's not much, right? There's really not.
The only difference is the physicality.
The intimacy, the physicality, and sometimes I think the depth. It can go deeper.
Okay, yeah, I would agree with that. Yeah.
I do think it can go deeper, and I think those feelings of romantic love can they can grow a lot, right? And they can change, and like there's different. I haven't really fully explored it yet. I don't know what it's like to be with someone for 10 years.
Yeah, no.
Imagine how that. I don't know.
No fucking idea.
But I do think it can go deeper, especially if you're living with someone, right? But I think at the core of it, at the foundation, you're right. It's no different than a friendship or a familial relationship. You need to have that trading of, you know, trying to bring light to each other's lives, right? You need to be a source of good, right? And that's not to say that you cannot have your moments of being down, right?
Right. Oh God, yeah. No, like it fucking if you're sad and you're dealing with some shit, you don't have to pretend to be a happy-go-lucky
No, you shouldn't.
person. No,
That's
like,
part of it.
Yeah.
Part of that is being open when it's hard to be open.
Yeah.
When it's hard to be vulnerable, when it's hard to be like, damn, I am fucked up today. Like, or this week I just feel like absolute shit, and I'm sorry I can't be there for you in the ways that I usually am, right? But I think relationships are like 60-40, right? And so when you have 60-40, like someone is doing a little bit more work at some point in time, right? Maybe sometimes it's 50-50 more so too.
I think that's a good way to put it. Like, not necessarily that it's at all times 60-40,
Right.
but it fluctuates between those percentages.
So like
right?
sometimes you're
Of
doing
what's
60,
shared.
sometimes she's doing 60.
Right.
Right. You know, and so when someone's down, you kind of pick them up a little bit, right? And that makes us so much easier to live, I think, if you're truly doing that, and you're not expecting that person to always be like giving their all. That's another thing, is unrealistic expectations.
Oh,
you know?
God, yeah.
I think I had problems with that. Was probably one of my biggest flaws with past relationships, was like expecting too much out of people, you know, especially being as young as I was. Like, what the fuck was I expecting?
Right.
These people aren't capable of like understanding themselves,
Right.
and, blah, blah, and neither was I, really.
Right.
You know?
It's just some thought that you had in your head.
Yeah.
Like, oh, like, these are the expectations I have set,
Right.
and these are the expectations that you have to meet.
Right. And I think that's the problem a lot of people run into. It's like you either have too high of expectations or too low, you know, which is a shame. I think low can cause a lot more problems than high, but
Yeah.
because like if you have low expectations, you're just like, oh, here's my standard of what I
You're
expect
just
out of a
settling
relationship.
for whatever the fuck comes
And
by.
it's usually pretty shitty based on what you experienced in the past, right? You're like, oh, this is all I can manage, right? I'm only deserving of this much love, right? But if it's too high, then you're constantly trying to reach for something more. You're expecting more and more and more out of a relationship when a relationship is just here, You know, a relationship should be a steady rock, a home, right? You want it to feel like a home, right? That person to feel like a home, and homes should not move, right?
Right.
That's your place, right? And of course, like, it's going to fluctuate.
There's going to be little fluctuations,
right?
yeah.
But those are healthy, right? And those are more dependent on your personal things going on in each other's lives rather than the relationship.
You kind of control how much it fluctuates.
And you control how much it affects the relationship, right? So you got to have that separation of like, hey, I'm going through shit right now. This has nothing to do with you or our relationship, but I could use your support.
Yeah.
For my own sake, right? And that has nothing to do with romantic love, right?
No.
That's just
love.
Yeah, that's just pure.
Yeah.
Again, pure love. That is just pure love, right?
Yeah.
Pure love, just unconditional, non-filtered love is different than romantic love.
Yeah, I'm here for you. Like,
it's very different from romantic love.
Yeah.
You know, not that romantic love doesn't have its place either. You know, but it's just a different feeling. You know, and I think once you really make that differentiation between the two, you start to understand, like, okay, like this is how it should feel. And I don't know. I don't have all the answers though.
No.
Again,
fucking who does? Like,
no one does, right? Even relationship experts don't. Dude, I remember I showed you that video of there's a YouTube video of this pre-marriage counselor or therapist.
Oh yeah, that guy was dope.
Yeah, and like he basically explained in the video like how everyone has all these deal breakers, right? Or people have maybe like 5 or 6 things that are like absolute deal breakers. Like you need them or else. And they're different for everyone to some extent, right? I'm sure me and Tyler would find more similarities than not,
just
because we're similar people, right? But when you meet someone romantically, they could be so different from you, and you don't know until you talk about that shit. You really don't. You could guess, but what good is guessing, right? I've been really surprised by what some people consider deal breakers and what they don't.
Yeah. Well, I mean, and sometimes, you know, like you might hear like a deal breaker and it's like, oh, like they need to watch reality television.
No, that's a deal breaker for me, G.
It's like, what?
That's a deal breaker.
Like,
no, I mean, I don't. That's like that's a very small thing, right?
Yeah, it's a small thing, but like some people look at those things as like deal breakers, right? It's
well,
it's like what do you like absolutely need in your relationship? Like,
I think it has a lot to do with what your personal standards of life are. You know, that influences it a ton.
Yeah.
Right. So like, if we're talking about deal breakers that I consider deal breakers, we're saying like, I require some level of emotional intelligence and like you being able to meet me at a similar level mentally, emotionally, and like be able to communicate. That's a huge thing. And you know, I think a lot of my deal breakers too have to do with not doing certain things as well, right? Like don't depend on me so much that like if I, you know, fall at all, like you're just going to be like, what the fuck? Like, you know, like shit like that, you know? But I think in the video, he's like, if you write down 100 things that you consider deal breakers and then try and narrow it down to like 5 or 6 things, those are the real things that you need to focus on, right? Because you could have a long list of things that you generally are like, oh, I don't like guys who have long hair.
I don't want to date someone who likes country music.
All this petty shit.
Yeah.
It's really irrelevant. Like if you really found someone that hit those 5 or 6 things that you were attracted to them, all that stuff, all those other things would go out the window, right? But again, I think also these deal breakers change a lot too, to some extent.
Yeah. I mean, as you're growing, you develop different things.
Yeah, and as you change as a person. But like, there are certain things that are set in stone, I feel like. And that's, again, dependent on your upbringing, all that stuff, you know. But I think you really got to have those conversations early and like be very, very, very honest and open about what it is you truly want. And again, I think we mentioned this in the beginning, like, what is the point of a relationship? Yeah. Like, what do you think the point of a relationship is? You know? Me? Yeah, you personally.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah. Well, you know, I think the point is kind of like we talked about, you know, is like two people coming together as whole individuals to complement each other, right? Like, you know, you can go through life alone. There's nothing wrong with that, but you know, it's nice having companionship. Very nice, it's nice, you know, thinking of the possibility of like starting a family of your own one day and stuff like that. And I think that it's important that if you're going to be going into a relationship to like, you know, look at it as like complementing each other, because you're not going to complete the other person. They're not going to complete you. You're going to complete yourself. They're going to complete themselves. Yes. Right. but it's like what you guys are gonna do as two complete individuals, and like how you're gonna complement each other, and how you're gonna help each other, and how you're gonna work together to, if you're gonna start a family, how are you gonna do that to benefit each other if you're not starting a family and you two are just gonna stay romantically involved and like get married or something, and like we don't want kids, but like how are you gonna stay together at that point? Like how are you gonna be working together if it's just on that level? Like,
bro, there's so many really specific things that you need to talk about. Like, do you want kids? How do you want to raise kids? What kind of like education, like what do you expect out of that? What about religion, politics? All these things are very important to a lot of people, but at the same time there's a lot of fear of talking about these things, and fear of offending someone, and fear of scaring someone away. And it's like, bro, if you scare someone away in a romantic setting, that's for the best.
It's like literally like, okay, if they didn't like what you said and they're like, I can't do it, it's like, okay, thanks.
Okay, cool. Thanks for not wasting my time.
Yeah, thank you.
Just be honest, right?
Yeah, fuck, like be yourself.
We don't
man.
have enough time on this earth to fuck around and be like, like I think I can accept that. Like that's kind of okay. No. Jesus. I spent too much. I mean, I wasn't even in that many relationships for that long. Some people have spent decades,
fucking like 4 or 5 years.
Yeah, that's
plus. That's then just, there's people who get married and they're in situations like that.
Marriage is terrifying, dude. Like, imagine being married and having to go through divorce shit and like paying out the wazoo for lawyers.
God, and you end
up hating each other, and the kids are. Oh my god, that's my nightmare, dude. Like, if you haven't watched Wedding Story, that is literally like the depiction of that.
I haven't, but yeah,
bro, it's terrifying. It's awful, but and everyone's seen like what divorce can do, but like I can't. I never want to put myself in a situation where I would be in that, I've also, the idea of like a prenup, like I think I would totally get a prenup, like why is that such a stigmatized thing? Like, oh, like you don't love me enough to know that we're going to be together for the next 40 years? How dare you? Things happen.
Yeah.
Things can happen. I'm sorry. We changed so much as people over 5, 10, 15, 20 years. I can't even imagine. I've only been alive for 23 years. Imagine how different we're going to be in 20 years.
Yeah, what the dude, there's people that have been married for longer than I've been alive.
Literally.
Like, that's fucking bonkers.
And to think that, like the power of love can just like transcend all.
Love conquers all.
That's some bullshit, bro. Like, shit happens. I'm sorry. There's some really bad shit that can happen, and people can change drastically. And it's very okay to accept that and be like, you know what? If things do go bad, I don't want to be fucked financially and have to deal with all this drama, Dude,
I think that's a huge contributor, like outside of prenups, outside of divorces, just in general, like the idea that like love conquers all, right? Like if you love someone enough, things are going to work out.
What does that even mean?
Yeah, like
what does that even mean, bro? It means nothing.
Yeah, like you can love someone as much as you want.
Let me get my love bazooka out. I'm gonna fucking hyper beam of love, dude. Like what the like you can't just make more like that love. There's no like amount of love within you that you can quantify, right? Like,
no,
that's not how it works, right? You can't just do it more. You either do it or you don't. Actual love, right?
Right, but but like at the same time, it's like, are you fooling yourself too? Like for example, with my like first serious relationship, being cheated on, having a lot of awful, toxic things in the relationship, me sitting there thinking, but I love her. Right. I love her. I'm gonna make this work. I'm gonna help her. I'm gonna, because I love her, this is gonna work out. But like I can say all that, but it's just like a fucking, it's all a hot lie. Yeah. It's all a hot lie, like fucking
pile of garbage.
It's a hot pile of trash, right? Like, like, and I'm just feeding that into my
yourself.
brain, like, oh yeah, like I'll make it work.
Yeah, we lie to ourselves more than other people usually.
Yeah,
man.
it's like you look at a situation, you're like, well, like like she's cheated on me like 15 times, but I love her.
It's that cognitive dissonance and just wanting to believe that people are better than they actually are, And I think again, I have a pretty optimistic view of humanity in general. Like I think people are generally trying to be good, they're trying to be happy, but like there's so much shit that can cover that up and make it seem like someone is not pure and they don't have good intentions, right? And I could look at my exes and be like, oh, I hate them, like they fucking did all this shit, they fucked me up, but like why would I want to do that?
Yeah, fucking
why would I want to do that?
There's so much more to that first serious relationship I had. Like I'm just flat out not gonna share because it's way too personal and a lot of shit happened. But like I can look at that I could look at her and like despise her. I can look at her with anger and hatred and all these things.
That emotion's there,
right? Like definitely, I can, if I wanted to, I can go back to those moments that happened in the relationship and tap into that anger and tap into that sadness and everything that I felt.
Right.
But what good does that do for me, right?
It doesn't.
Instead of doing that, why don't I just look at that situation and look at everything as it is in the past and just find compassion for it, right?
And
like,
love for
and
yourself.
love for myself, and like you know, shit like that.
Because it truly is a choice at the end of the day, whether you realize it or not. You know, and that's the thing. I think people feel so helpless and powerless with their trauma. It's like, oh, this stuff is so heavy. It's so hard to deal with. I need to figure it out. I need to like fucking dissect it and like figure out each little part of it. No, you don't. Cover the whole thing in a blanket of love, dude.
Maybe
like,
I could have done this differently and they would have loved me longer. Like, maybe I could have done this and fucking whatever. It's like...
No, there's no if. It's always ifs. What ifs? What if? What if I did? It's not... I don't give a fuck about if, right? It didn't happen. You didn't do that. They didn't do that. So it is what it is.
Yeah, you're just creating these, like, fantasizing.
It is literal fantasy. Every if that you can conjure up in your head is fantasy, whether it's past or future. If I could go back, if I could do this in the future, I don't give a fuck what happened in the past or what you could do in the future. Focus on right now. That's all you can do. All you can ever do, right? And if you create your identity, if you live in the past and future, you're just gonna suffer.
Oh yeah,
you will purely suffer.
Oh yeah,
and it'll affect your whole life, relationships. With not even just romantic relationships, friendships, familial relationships,
romantic relationships,
your job,
like workplace relationships, fucking everything.
Right, because you create this whole identity around everything that's not you, everything that you were in the past, everything that you think you could be in the future based on your potential. Yeah, right. It's all fucking.
Who are you now? Who are you today?
Yes,
and in this very moment. Fuck everything else that happened, right? Like, who are you right now?
Right, and what are you experiencing right now? And work with that, because that's that's literally the only thing you can do. You can't go back. You can't go in the future. You know, it is what it is right now. And that's all it is. That's all it ever will be. That's another thing when it comes to relationships that I need, like, a mutual understanding about, right? The idea of past and future being completely irrelevant in the grand scheme of things, right? Someone who understands that the only work that we have to do on this earth exists in this present moment
is right now.
Right now. And understanding that trying to be present is part of the work that we need to do. Making conscious efforts. Process. Yes, part of the process. And like someone who's in that process as well, right? Because I'm always in that process. Yeah. And I need someone else to be in that process too if I'm going to be in a romantic relationship with them. You know?
I don't want to be the only one that's constantly trying to better myself.
Right. And it's not like you always, like, every day of the week, you're like, I am doing great.
No, not in any way, shape, or form is it like...
Part of that process is having those days of, like, oh, fuck.
And accepting those days. And, being honest about those days. Yeah, absolutely.
But that's the beauty of it, too. Like, if you can be truly honest with someone, you start to normalize a lot more. You start to have less waves and more just, like, a calm tide, you know? It's just like, okay, we're just rolling with the punches, man. We're just chilling,
bobbing your head to nice low
and that's how it shouldn't be hard, man. Relationships should not be super hard. They should not be, but I think we complicate them because of our own fantasies, our egos, our misunderstandings, our baggage.
I think ego is another huge part of it. I mean,
ego is a huge part of it, man, because you try and protect that ego like a little baby. You're like, oh no, like I can't.
That's the wall you're building up. The point of like, you know, people are always like, oh, you know, I've built up this defense mechanism and I have this wall and blah blah blah. Like, you know, I'm sure a lot of people who are like that don't even know exactly what they're protecting. I'll tell you, it's your fucking ego.
It's your feelings of safety. Like, you feel safe by protecting that, right?
Yeah.
It feels like easier.
You're trying to derive a sense of self from that ego, and you're trying to protect that because that's what you think is your sense of self, right?
And if you try and destroy it, man, people can go insane, right? And I'm not saying you have to destroy your ego and just like all that crazy spiritual shit, like you need to die before you die.
You need to have ego death.
No, like that's a whole nother ballgame.
It's a whole nother, it's a whole different fucking thing.
The only way to really get into that is like through your own spiritual work, completely separate from anyone else, right? and we could talk about that another time, but like I need someone who is at least in the process of and understands the basic idea of you have to keep your ego in check. You have to be aware of these things or else you will crumble, right? People can falter a little bit. That's totally human.
It's totally human, yes.
And it's never, I don't think there's ever a point where you, but like, what does that faltering look like? Like, do you have a little moment of like anger and you like fucking fly off the handle and like throw knives at me in the kitchen and like fucking run out the house, you know? Like, is that what your faltering looks like? Because that's not okay with me, right? There's levels to this shit, right?
Holy fuck.
Like, I can't jive with that. But if you get a little angry and like, you like, you know, you like say something kind of mean or whatever, like you're like, oh, like you're so stupid, and you're like, oh, I'm sorry, like I didn't mean that, you know, like that happens, right?
Like fucking like, ooh, boo hoo, like you said I'm stupid, like
right, like,
it's like whatever,
and I don't think name calling is appropriate in a relationship, and like I would be like, yo, like that was not okay, and like as long as they understood that,
stupid,
right? Well, I might be stupid, right? You know, I could have been stupid in that moment that they called me stupid, but you know, it's irrelevant, right? The biggest thing another big thing in relationships is like just being gentle. Very, very gentle, very nice to the other person. We talked about this last time too, but like when you're with someone for a long time, you get very comfortable, very familiar, and that familiarity breeds a lot of, you know,
can breed resentment in a lot of ways.
It doesn't breed it; it allows it to come out, and then you have to do something about it.
Oh yeah.
And so when you choose to not handle that in a very healthy way, it ends up being projected onto the other person. Yeah. And then they're like, what the fuck? Like, what is this shit? You know, even in relationships, most of the problems that come up have nothing to do with the problems between you. It has to do with the problems within yourself. Yeah. Right? And you're just projecting it and creating a whole ass fucking scenario about it. You're creating a whole ass fantasy about this shit. And that's not fair to the other person or yourself, you know? So if you're working within fantasy, delusion, within ignorance, you're never going to figure anything out. No. Right?
You got to take a step outside of that.
You need to.
Yeah. Take a step outside of that. See what's actually...
See it for what it is.
See what's actually real. Yeah.
See it for what it is, delusion.
Dude, bro, I'll fucking swing it back to last week again. It's like the cave theory thing that we talked about. You're sitting here thinking this is what relationships are, and you're sitting here...
This is the problem I have, you know, with my significant other.
Right, exactly. And you're sitting here thinking this is the only way it has to be. It has to be this way. This is it, whatever. It's like, just take a step back. Step out of the cave for a bit.
And that's the open-mindedness. Yes, the open-mindedness is absolutely necessary for me in any relationship, not even just romantic relationships, but especially romantic relationships. Like, I cannot be with someone who is very narrow-minded and just looking at problems. Like we were talking about earlier, like seeing like an evil person and thinking, oh, they're just a piece of shit, fuck them, whatever. Like, seeing the whole picture is what I really need. Like, someone who sees every angle to an issue rather than just the symptoms of it, right? Tries to look for the source rather than all these little other fucking things, you know, like that are irrelevant, right? And so when you're with someone who's like that, I mean, I can't imagine how great the potential for that could be, right? I think it could be really beautiful, right? And so that's really what I would want a relationship with like that. But when I say I want a relationship, I want that specifically, right? And if it's not that, I know when it's not, right? I've gotten so good at telling when someone is clinging or closed-minded and all this stuff. Like, it's a gut feeling.
Yeah, it's like you just know because like something feels off.
Or like you can even logically just look and be like, what the fuck? Like, because like when I've told you about some of my experiences with dating in the past 10 months, I told you about it and you're like, wait, what? And I was like, oh yeah, that's kind of fucked.
Yeah.
You know, because in the moment it's hard to catch it. Yeah. But like after the fact, you're like, oh, yikes, you know?
Yeah,
like,
yikes.
Yikes, mate.
Yeah.
Literally. So you have to really put in that effort to be aware of things as they're happening, but also after they happen too, and just be like, okay, like, is this really what I want? Take time to be like, really solidify those, like, you know, this is what it is, and can I accept this, and do I want this, right? It's not that deep usually, though. No. You know, like, it doesn't have to be that deep. I think if you really feel it, like that gut feeling in a positive way, you should fucking go with it. You know, go with that, ride that wave, but still be like cautious, still be careful. Yeah. Take your time getting to know someone, right?
Yeah. I think, I mean, it's one of the biggest things, I think, you know, with building a relationship. Get to fucking know the person. Yeah. Like, I mean, like.
What's the harm in that?
Like, my issue in the past that I was mentioning is, like, I was just hopping into things. I was just like, yeah, this person's cool, let's date. Like, but I don't fucking know you. Like,
yeah, why do I want to even be with you?
Yeah, I've been talking to you for, like, 2 weeks, and we're just going to decide to, like, hop into a romantic relationship. Like,
and the thing is, I've in my actual relationships that started, it progressed pretty quickly.
Yeah, same.
You know, but I don't think it should be like that.
No, I don't. I mean, it can be. It's
can
not
be.
saying that that's wrong. It's not saying that relationships won't ever like
Happen
form
quickly, yeah.
and like work out
Uh-huh.
in situations like that. But like, I think the likelihood of like,
It's lower.
yeah, the likelihood is lower. I think if you take the time and get to know someone and
Patient.
build like a repertoire with someone, right? Like
Yeah.
like get a feeling for them, get an understanding.
Yeah.
See them in situations that you don't normally see them in.
Yeah,
right.
and
Like,
to be honest, too, like I also have a thought, like even if you decide to commit to someone and be like, we're gonna be in a relationship, we're calling it that. It doesn't mean that like you have to completely know them and be like 100% sure of them, because that's not possible, right? Even if you're with someone for years, you may not be at that point. I don't think, maybe there's not a point where you're like 100% like yes, like this is the one. Like it's such a goofy idea, right? Like I found my soulmate, I found my one. Like
fuck soulmate
What
shit,
does it even-
dude. What is that?
it doesn't mean jack ass shit.
Yeah,
man. Like,
I mean that ties in with the hopeless romantic idea that there's like one person out there for you. It's like,
There
no,
ain't, man.
motherfucker. Like
there's thousands and
there's
hundreds of thousands,
thousands of people that you can potentially be in a relationship with, but it depends on who you're going to be in a relationship with, right? Out of those thousands of people, and whether they're going to be like putting what you put into the relationship. It's like it's a two-way street, right?
It has
like
to be, yeah.
like-
Whether you're a guy or a girl, it doesn't
yeah,
matter.
like sure, maybe for people who believe in soulmates, then that person is your soulmate. But I like to think of it on just like a very basic human level of like, are they gonna be the same as you in the sense of like wanting to grow together and complement
Similar.
each other?
Yeah.
Similar, not same.
Yeah.
Like you don't want someone who's like literally.
Similar mindsets, perspectives, ideas, and just way that they function in life.
Are they going to be able
you know?
to communicate and do things in a relationship properly that
Right.
the other thousands of potential mates that you could have won't?
Yeah,
maybe.
and
like
here's the biggest factor too is like, are they going to choose to do that? Because at the end of the day, it is a choice. Love is not just like, oh, like if I feel like I have enough love for this person, then I will choose to be with them.
Right.
No, like there are times in long-term relationships where you don't feel that, but you still choose to stick it out because you you're just going to, right? Because you know you love this person beyond any condition, right? So you're just gonna do it, and that's really what it comes down to with long-term stuff. Is like you just have to choose to do it. So if you find someone that's not ready to make that choice, to make that leap, that's fine. But like, just be honest about it, you know. And people who are on dating apps and shit, like, bro, come on. Like, if you know you're not going to even get to know, like, you're not even willing to get to know someone, just be single. Just be single for some time.
Yeah.
You know, if you're not even ready to just like baseline, just talk to someone.
yeah, just like talk,
stop.
just chat, like yeah.
Like that is not even a commitment, bro. What are you doing by having that? It's a positive thing in my mind. Like you're just getting to know someone. You're getting more information out of life, right? You're understanding people more, right? Even if it doesn't have to lead to anything, it doesn't have to be anything. It's just
Yeah.
like, I just want to get to know you as a
Yeah,
human.
it's like
you know?
let me learn something. About
Obviously, when you're in a dating app, especially, you think they're attractive too, which is a factor. But like, and you obviously would like to see it progress romantically if everything lines up the way you.
Yeah, it's
hope.
like end game. You want, you potentially would like to have like a connection, evolve from
Right.
one of it. But it's like what's the harm in just like chatting with
There's
people?
no
getting
pressure.
to know someone. There shouldn't be pressure like
But
that.
the pressure people put on it is from within themselves. You know, like they create that themselves.
Feeling that they gotta, be a certain way.
Or like, yeah, we need to.
or like if we
yeah.
talk for too long, then it's gonna get serious or something. It's
It's so
like
goofy.
It's like we're fucking adults now. Like,
and they're probably judging it based off of past experiences and like what they think it should be like. What I suggest for people is to just go into everything as completely blank slate as possible, man. Like, don't go in with any preconceived notions, any ideas about what you should or shouldn't do. Just connect with this human on a pure, unfiltered, unadulterated level, like just completely like neutral, and see what happens. And if it, you'll know if it's good, it's good, and if it's not, it's not.
but you gotta listen to yourself. Like,
Yeah, listen to your
Like, if
mind and
there's-
your
if
body.
there's-
Absolutely.
if there's things that they're saying, if there's habits or mindsets or things that you notice that you're like, yeah, I don't know if I vibe with that so much. Like, don't ignore that. Like, just because
Yeah,
they
I've
seem
ignored
cool,
that. I've ignored that for
know?
sure, dude.
Like, especially at this time and age, like we're all old enough to an extent, right? And we're all mature enough to an extent, I would hope, to be like, yeah, like literally nothing wrong with you. Like, I think you're a wonderful person, but like, you smoke cigarettes, I don't.
That's a
I'm
deal breaker, bro.
I'm not
Sorry.
about that. Like,
yeah, nothing against you. It's just like,
you know, like, you seem like
deal.
a wonderful person. I enjoy being around you, but you kind of have a really racist mindset.
oh, that's a huge deal breaker.
Nothing wrong with you.
I don't think I could enjoy being around a racist person for a
No,
long,
I know,
for
but
that
like
long.
I'm just saying
I know
though,
what
like
you
I'm
mean,
just
though.
throwing out like
If you
random
found that out,
examples.
right.
Yeah, it's like
Right.
yeah, exactly.
So yeah,
It's like you seem really cool. I enjoy being around you, but your communication sucks major
and
dick.
why can we not be
Like-
more honest like that?
Yeah.
You know, and not literally saying you don't have to insult them like, oh, you suck dick at communication. Just be like, hey, like I just feel like, you know, we're
Yeah.
not. Why can you not be more honest with people when things don't work? And why does people have to take it so personally, right? Because usually people are somewhat aware of their flaws, right? Of their inability to do something that they know they should be doing in a romantic relationship. So like, why can we not just be like, hey, like I noticed this about you and it doesn't really work for me. I'm sorry. Like we should just stop. No offense. No nothing. It's just like it is what it is.
Dude,
Right?
like that's the only way, because like, you know, people then go into like patterns of avoidance then. It's like, oh, like I, you know, say you're starting a relationship and you're like, yeah, you know, having second thoughts about it, like, oh man, like, you know, I'm kind of like hopping into this and I'm not so sure, you know, she's not great at communicating these things and, you know, whatever, but like I don't want to hurt her feelings, so I'm just kind of gonna ride it out.
That's some
but it's
goofy
like
shit,
man,
yeah.
it's like you're hurting yourself and the other person in the long run then.
It's ironically causing more issues than
Yeah, exactly. It's like just be honest with the person. Let them know, like, hey, like I'm starting to have doubts. I'm starting to feel this way. I'm
Yeah.
starting to worry about this, and you
Yeah.
know, it's
very normal.
I'm not attacking you. I'm not saying you're like
Right.
bad. I'm just saying like I don't know if this is like gonna.
And how much, there's a chance when you talk to someone about this stuff, there's a chance that you could maybe, you know, and not, but like if there's a major deal breaker, like someone being racist, you can't really work with that. But like if you're feeling like a little off or weird about something and you talk about it, there's a chance that you could end up feeling better about it if you
Yeah.
are truly open and honest and you have a conversation
and
about
that's
it.
how great communication can be. Because
Yeah.
like
It can be for you in your favor or against you, you know?
And like, you know, like of course, like yeah, like there's 100% going to be times where like you're like, okay, I'm just gonna be an honest person here, and you're gonna say like, hey, like, you know, you're really cool, but you know, I don't like your racist tendencies, and they'll be like, what the fuck is wrong with
Yeah.
you? You led me on for so long. I thought you loved me. Blah
That's
blah
crazy.
blah. You know, you told me always and forever.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah, all that shit.
fucking like, shut up.
Shut up.
Like,
Shut up.
like, you know, like I think it's kind of like the ego like stepping in then, because like you said, it's like they know they're racist, they
Yeah.
know that they lack in
To some
communication,
extent, right.
like they know to some extent, but it's like they hear it and they put up a wall. They're like, nope,
don't-
like you're insulting me.
People do not like to be called out.
No, it's truthful stuff. Like
Yeah, people don't like to be called out. Again, it's if you're not aware enough of your ego, you may just live through it, and you may just like be like, "I'm right. I know I'm solid. I know who I am." No, you're not. No one's solid, right? And no one is just perfectly like good where they are, right? Like, I mean, in a sense, right? Like, you can't just expect other people to be like, oh yeah, like I can, you know, you're totally like perfect and great, and like I have no problems with you because, you know, you're this way, and that way, right? Like there's, when you get into a relationship with someone, those things will be blown right in your face and be like, this ain't it, you know? Like you're gonna find out real quick what works and what doesn't work when it comes to being with someone, you
it's
know?
about being honest then from there.
And also adapting, right? And being like, oh shit, like maybe I do need to work on this within myself and change these parts about me.
Yeah.
So
Well, be
that's-
honest with the other person and
Yeah.
honest with yourself. If someone's
important.
calling you out on your bullshit and
Accept it,
you
yeah.
can, you know, take a moment to like not let your ego take over and like realize like oh hey, like maybe I shouldn't have like made that joke that I thought was funny but was
Right.
kind of really insulting and mean. Like
Yeah. No, absolutely,
yeah,
man. It's,
you know, like
but it takes a lot to be able to do that, and it takes practice. You really have to practice like being that aware of shit, you know?
what's the timestamp right now? Where are we at?
I don't know. Oh yeah, we could wrap it up. It's been 2 hours.
All right. Yeah, I was kind of thinking
Yeah,
that.
it was-
I'm like,
felt like it was
we've been
getting close.
talking for a while.
Well, you know, we hit our 2 hour mark.
Yeah. We might at some point maybe try to like do like shorter segments.
Yeah, we might.
Um,
I don't know. Well, I'm okay with this as it is right now. You know.
Yeah, like
it
me too.
It feels natural to talk for
Mhm.
this long, and
Mhm.
you know, if people don't watch the whole thing, that's totally fine. And,
That's okay.
You know, but
Totally open to feedback though.
Yeah, feedback
like
is
I mean,
great.
if some people are gonna be like watching these every week and they might like, you know, because like what we can do, you know, we can take like segments of what we've talked about and just like make it shorter
Yeah.
and like post videos like that. If
yeah,
they-
that'd be cool too.
you know, shit like that. If people want, you know, like again, like yeah, like you said, like this is just like a normal conversation for us.
Mhm.
You know, they sometimes run forever. They sometimes go a bit
yeah,
shorter.
we
like,
go on loop sometimes, and I'm aware
yeah,
of that. You know. But I think some people will find enjoyment out of this. Some people may not. But
Mhm.
regardless, you know, it is what it is. You know,
It is what
it's
it
a chill
is.
thing.
Yeah,
you know?
it's a chill thing. That's
Yeah.
the name of the podcast. I don't know if we said that last
Bro.
time. Who fucking knows?
Yeah, maybe
like,
next time we'll explain the origin of that too, because I feel like that might
Yeah.
be fun. You know.
Yeah, well, I mean, since it's relationships, maybe I
Maybe we
could just
should.
real quick then.
Just real
Yeah,
quick,
maybe
right?
maybe
as
just
a closing note.
yeah, feels right. Okay, so the name of this podcast was derived from an ex-girlfriend of mine.
In high school.
In high school, so like one of the
Early high
stupid relationships, right? It was like at a point where I wasn't sure exactly what was going on with the relationship, and so I asked her, I'm like, you know, like, what exactly is this?
Like,
You know,
what are
what
we-
exactly are we doing?
Yeah.
And to which she responded, it's a chill thing. So boom, name drop, name of the podcast. It's been an inside joke for literally
We've been saying it for
forever.
years, bro.
And it
It's
just
so
felt
stupid.
it felt right though, like
Yeah.
for this,
Felt right.
because this podcast
It
is a chill thing.
It
Like
just
you know,
is, man.
fucking it just felt so right. So that's the origin of it.
Bada bing, bada boom.
Yeah. Yeah. So good.
But yeah, that's really it, man. You know, we'll
Mhm.
be back next week with some other. We haven't decided yet what.
No.
Usually throughout the week we'll figure out. What,
Yeah, we're still kind of like freeballing it.
yeah, we're gonna be more. I mean, I feel like this week we were a bit more like pointed.
Yeah, I
with
think
our
so, too.
discussions,
Yeah,
which is good. But we're gonna do a ton of different topics, man.
Yeah,
Like, it's-
first week was like very free ball, like
Oh,
just like the title of the shit's just tangents on
Yep.
tangents. Today was pretty tangent like
but it was about
around the topic
relationships.
of relationships, but
it all felt fairly relevant.
yeah, like
you know?
like we might like maybe get more like specific.
Yeah,
and
we could
not
definitely
go on
revisit
tangents
some of
and
this
stuff
shit.
and like yeah,
we could definitely
um,
revisit some of this stuff.
yeah.
in the future.
definitely.
But yeah, it's been real.
Yeah,
Peace
it's
out,
been
y'all.
cool. Still don't know how to do outros.
We're just saying peace out, and the video's gonna cut like that.
Yeah, beautiful. Peace out. It's a chill thing.